Testing one, two. All right. Okay, welcome back to Cool Beans Hot Stuff, everybody. Today is Terrifying Tuesday, which means we are going to go over some super spooky shit today. This is my number one favoriteest most dayest in the week. And so I'm super stoked to be here and hang out and chat with you guys. Today we are going to be chatting about the history of creepypastas. What is a creepypasta? How did they come about? Who were the OGs in the creepypasta genre? And then I'm going to go over a few of them, introduce you to them, and maybe even read a couple of them. We might go through some of the origins of some of those original creepypastas, who thought of them and how they thought of them, that sort of thing. And the origins of some of the images related to some of those creepypastas. So I know creepypastas is an old term. They've been around for a while. Most people probably know what they are and have heard of them. I don't know if a lot of the younger generation even cares, really, because they do have seemed to decrease in popularity. And we'll talk about that a little bit later in the stream. Towards the end of the stream, we'll talk about that decrease in creepypasta popularity. But some people are bound to not have heard of them before. So if you like creepy shit, or if you've heard of creepypastas and you want to learn a little more about them, or if you're just a huge fucking fan of creepypastas like I am, regardless of whether anybody else likes them or not, then I hope you find this video and I hope you enjoy it. To anybody who's watching live, thanks for tuning into the channel. I hope you enjoy this stream that I got for you guys today. I put a lot of effort into putting it together, and I'm super excited to talk about it, which is good news, because usually when I'm excited to talk about whatever it is I got for you, it usually ends up being a better stream. A little more entertaining. I'm a little more loosey-goosey and a little more excited to be here. Feel like I got a bit better handle on the material and can afford to make a little more jokes and have a little bit more fun with you. I know Cutie Pie, you're watching right now. She's cooking some Thai curry meatballs upstairs. So hope you're enjoying your Thai curry meatballs, hot stuff. And to anybody who sees this on YouTube, thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoy the video. And if you do, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. That helps other people find the video who might also like it, and obviously helps me. So I appreciate your support. But yeah, there's my intro. Let's go ahead and jump into the topic, right? So what is a creepypasta? That's what we're going to start with. Again, a lot of you probably know what a creepypasta is, or at least you've heard of it and you have a good rough general idea. But here, I'm about to fill in those blanks in your knowledge, all right? So check it out. A comprehensive breakdown of the internet's darkest folklore. I didn't read creepypastas in my childhood, but I was always aware of their existence. I knew about Slenderman, that they came from the internet, and that these weird, nearly convincing stories had a very specific style. Yeah, so everybody's heard of Slenderman, right? You might not know what a creepypasta is. You might have heard the term and you don't really quite know what the term is, except maybe it's like a spooky story on the internet or whatever. But everybody's heard of Slenderman, right? They've made like fucking movies and video games and all kinds of shit about it, right? So that's one of the more popular ones. We'll definitely be diving into Slenderman a little bit later in the stream, giving you guys the whole history of Slenderman. Imagine my bewilderment when I came across a newer article about creepypastas that described them as scary stories on the internet. Even though I only had a vague knowledge of them, I knew that wasn't correct. They were much more than that. Yeah, obviously, if that's all that they were, then this would be a pretty boring stream. You know, even for people who like creepypastas, for me to just, and here's the scary stories that the internet made. And that's the end of our stream. Thanks for tuning in. They are more than just scary stories. They have a little bit more to them. Their history is interesting. Personally, I find it so cool, this whole concept. This is one of the creepypastas is one of the things that, particularly for millennials, I don't necessarily know about how Generation Z feels about it, but especially for millennials, and I think the older members of Generation Z at least, creepypastas is one of those many things that only came about in our generation. It's our generation's version of like new age mythical stories or folklore, right? You know, it's like the only folklore we know about is folklore that came from hundreds of years ago. And then the internet came about, opened up a whole horizon for various different opportunities. And somewhere along the line, somebody realized, ooh, we can use the internet to share en masse creepy fucking stories And in doing so, and pretend that they're real. And in doing so, we can create our own internet folklore. So creepypastas is the folklore of our generation, which is so fucking cool. And it's neat to have saw that being created, right? I mean, creepypastas is what inspired me to get into writing. One of the things that inspired me to get into writing my own stories, because it was so neat to see people, normal people, everyday people who just, a lot of these creepypastas, we'll get into them, and a lot of them are not, you're very clearly not professionally written, right? That's kind of a point to it, as we'll read here in a minute. A lot of it was just written by people who just had a good idea, and they just fucking threw that shit down on the internet and then let it spread, and it spread like wildfire in some cases. And so here's normal everyday people contributing to a cultural zeitgeist, contributing to a cultural movement that is one of many, many different movements online specifically that is unique to our generation, right? Kind of like EDM music. EDM music was one of those things too, where it wasn't there before. And then there was small little bits and pieces of it. There was techno and things like that beforehand, but then technology made it possible for people like, and I know there was, people, like, particularly in England way before like Skrillex came around, but you had those bigger names suddenly pop out of nowhere, Bass Nectar and Skrillex and Zomboy and all these various dubstep artists, and then suddenly, boom, EDM became a music that is unique to our generation. Our generation created that shit. It isn't like rock, heavy metal, rap music, where that was something older generations created. And yeah, our generation still, and I would say probably Generation Z, you could probably credit more maybe with mumble rap. Generation Z created mumble rap. I'd say Generation X kind of helped create more the new metal scene, but those are just variations of a music that already existed. EDM was like its own motherfucking thing. You could say, oh, it's a variation of techno, and I'd tell you to fuck yourself. You're wrong. Like, it was its own motherfucking thing, dude. And now it's spawned a whole series of subgenres that are coming with younger generations, right? Generation Alpha, shitballs. Generation Alpha and Generation Z have created their own subgenres within that genre, but it is, a genre our generation created. And it was so cool to be a part of. Working in recording studios, it was so cool to watch that take place. And same thing with creepypastas. That was what was so amazing about them. So they have a lot more to them than just scary stories on the fucking internet, right? So just wanted to throw that whole little rant out there, right? Okay, so I dove into the archives of creepypastas and familiarized myself with the media that had impacted me as a youth, but I had never read. Through this article, I hope to deeply analyze these stories in a way that celebrates and elevates them beyond that simple definition. So he's going to give us a real rundown. I mean, this girl, who was this that wrote this? Luke Henderson. Luke Henderson really did a good job of organizing the material and really diving in deep to what makes a creepypasta different than every other form of written story that you could think of, because they are unique unto themselves. And I just also wanted to point out, dove into the archives of creepypastas and familiarized myself with the media that had impacted me as a youth. That right there. Impacted me as a youth, but I had never read. That's a pretty interesting statement and powerful statement. There, like I said, a lot of you probably know what creepypastas are, and I imagine that if we took 100 people watching my stream, which would be awesome, but let's pretend that's happening, right, for my sake and yours. 100 people are watching my stream right now, and maybe 70, 80 of them have heard of creepypasta. Maybe 40 of them know what it is. You're probably down to like 20 of them that have actually read it, like read creepypasta and been like, oh yeah, I read these creepypastas you're about to bring up. I actually went out and read them, and I remember when somebody first posted that and how everybody thought it was real and how it fucking freaked you out because you weren't sure if it was real or not. This medium impacted all those other people who never even read it, right? It's, if you say 20 people read it, 80 people know about it, that's 60 people out of 100, 60%. And this is obviously a fictitious example. There we go. Third time's a charm. That's actually a word. The other two I don't think were words. Fictitious example. But in this fictitious example, that's 60% of the people who have heard of it, who have been impacted by it by some way. They're aware of what it is. They've heard of it, but they've never read it. when you got an art form that somebody hasn't even like dived into, they've never read it, they never listened to it, they've never experienced it, but they've heard about it. It's such a huge cultural phenomenon that they know about it. I think you're talking about a very powerful and very interesting and very cool art form. So, and creepypastas definitely fits on that list. The medium. Okay. First thing that must be accounted for when discussing creepypastas is where and how they were published. Much like how rules make a sport, the medium influences how art is created and distributed. Creepypastas were mainly crafted for posting on internet forums that focused on the spooky and occult. Forums were popular in the 90s and 2000s and as a way to discuss and share things of common interest among interested internet users. They are largely where the seeds of modern fandom culture germinated. What made forums unique was there was light moderation, and posts and comments would be packaged together under one page. Yeah, so that is something, more specifically the light moderation aspect of that. You know, who knows if we'll ever get that again on the internet. The 90s and the early 2000s were a very special time in the world because of those two words right there, light moderation. And you can argue it. You can absolutely, you know, it's a argument to be had whether or not light moderation is a good thing or a bad thing, the pros and cons of light moderation versus what I would consider nowadays, whether you're on Reddit, you know, everything except for probably 4chan, but like Reddit, Twitter, YouTube, what I would consider heavy moderation, right? There's an argument to be had there about whether those days of light moderation were too much or if it was a good thing or not. What isn't an argument is that light moderation on all these various forums, the internet being very loosely moderated comparative to today's, created a world, a situation, an ecosystem in which certain things could be said and done that can't be said and done today. That's the whole point of heavy moderation, right? Was to limit what people can do on the internet. I mean, that's the entire point, right? So with less moderation, that meant people could do more things. And again, you can get into the conversation of, well, is that good or bad and what sort of things, right? But that's another conversation. My point is more could be done in that time, obviously, because less moderation, right? Less regulation means more things can be done. Again, you can argue if that's a bad thing or a good thing, but that is what it is. That is the thing. That's the whole fucking point of moderation or regulation, right? Is it means less things can be done. And so, yeah, that made this time in America, 90s and 2000s, a very special time, really on the internet, into anywhere who had anybody all over the world that had access to the internet. That's what made the internet so special, was how unmoderated it was, right? Users could be largely anonymous and find an entire discussion on a single piece of writing or picture with one click. Because of the anonymity, users would often copy and paste text to these forums either to share something they found with the larger community as inside jokes or convince others that these things actually happened to the original poster. These types of posts eventually came to be called copypastas. So here's an example. I forget, does this make it bigger? I'm still figuring out. Kind of. Yeah, I don't know. Here. Hey, man. So, yeah, I'm just going to read this. Looks like a 4chan chat, right? Or it's some sort of old school forum. Hey, man, there are plenty of people that seem to stick to 320 or V0 for God knows what reason. Yeah, mine's currently duplicated to cause I don't want to see it on my laptop. That's your basic chat right there. You have to know what they're talking about in order to understand the sentence whatsoever. But that's a general idea of, you know, the old school forums. These copypastas were, let's go back up to that again. Want to reread that. These types of posts. What types of posts was that? Because of anonymity, users would often copy and paste text to these forums, either to share something as inside jokes or convince others that these things actually happened to the original poster. And that was what came to be called a copypasta. This is where the term creepypasta originated. Using the model of copypasta, users would find or craft their own horror stories, which would then be shared by others, typically without giving credit to the source. These features of forums influenced everything that would make a creepypasta, which will be discussed more in depth later. This mass sharing gave these stories the feelings of urban legends or campfire stories. Like any story retold time and time again, the details would become warped and varied as they spread. Because of this, authorship can be difficult or impossible to determine. Sites like creepypasta.com have attempted to track who first shared these stories and when, but many are still anonymous. What a reader experienced depend entirely on where and when they first read a creepypasta and who shared it. Yeah, that was an interesting aspect of the creepypastas that made them unique to any other form of written media. Is you could read about a creepypasta and be like, "Whoa, that's crazy," and then talk to your friend, and your friend read, you'd read about Smile Dog, for example, and you'd tell your friend about, "Oh man, I heard this crazy story about Smile Dog," and your friend would be like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, I heard that one too. I just read about that in a forum," and he'd be like, "Oh wow, how this and this and this happens," and your friend's like, "No, no, 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 how this and this happens." And you would just show each other the stories you read, and they're two not completely, but slightly different stories of Smile Dog, and you never knew whose was real or whose was the original. That wasn't necessarily the point. The point was that you have people all over the internet that are copying this Smile Dog story, posting it as something that happened to them personally, which is creating this feeling of this is happening to everybody. And it's happening to so many people that it feels like it's really happening. And that made it even spookier. That up amped the spookiness level above and beyond just your typical Hollywood movie where you know for a fact this movie is fake, right? It was kind of similar to when Paranormal Activity first came out. Everybody remembers that found footage movie. When Paranormal, and I know there was ones before that. Obviously, Paranormal Activity was not the first found footage film that came out, but it was unique and it did something unique when it appeared in theaters. It randomized the endings of the movie. So when you went to the theaters, there was a possibility that you were going to see one of like a dozen different endings to that movie, and it was randomized, so you never knew which one you were going to see. So when you watched it in theaters and you got an ending, and then you'd go talk to your friend about it, and your friend would be like, "That's not how that movie ended," and you'd be like, "Yeah, I just watched it last weekend," and he'd be like, "So did I," and that's not how it fucking ended. And then you'd go home and watch like the DVD when the DVD came out, and it would be a completely different ending from the two that you were talking about. That created a sense of like wonder, mystery, and confusion around the movie that very much followed it and made it somewhat more enjoyable, where you never knew what ending you were going to see. It caused a lot of people to just go see the movie more times in the theater. I saw the movie twice in theaters and got two separate endings. And the second time, it fucked me up. The second time, I think the first ending I got in the first one was, I don't even remember that original ending because I never saw it again. I believe the original ending was see, I don't even remember. The original ending, oh, that's what it was. Yep. The original ending that I watched, the girl, if you haven't seen Paranormal Activity, this is massive spoiler alerts, or not, because there's 12 alternate endings. So technically, maybe spoiler alert, maybe not. If you haven't seen the movie, you're not going to have any idea what I'm referencing, but that's okay. You should go watch the movie instead. But, it's perfectly fine. I'm not going to waste too much time catching you up on all the details of this one movie. But girlfriend haunted by a demon, she walks out to the hall because she's like, possessed by the demon. She runs downstairs, make a sound. Boyfriend gets up, runs downstairs, comes back in the room, and his girlfriend murders him, runs in, murders his ass, and then proceeds to like walk over to the camera and stare into the camera for like a good whole solid minute, which was kind of a weird, creepy, fucked up ending. It was very uncomfortable. Everybody in the theater was like, "Oh, like, what is this bitch gonna do? Like, oh, will she just stop looking at me?" And it was, it was interesting and enjoyable. But the second time I went to see that movie in theaters was a completely different ending, where girlfriend gets out of bed, she's possessed, goes downstairs, makes a noise, husband wakes up, runs down the steps, and then the door shuts, and you're like, "Oh, I don't remember this. What happens?" And then the door flies open and the husband's body flies at the camera. And I remember, again, same thing, where I didn't know at this time that there was alternate endings or what to expect from any alternate ending. I think at that time I did know there was alternate endings. I just didn't know what they were. And completely fucking shit my pants, man. Not literally, but came real close. Like I was turtle heading it. Like I came close to shitting my pants. It scared the piss out of me. That was one of like my top 5 scariest moments in a movie theater, was being at the end of Paranormal Activity when the ending completely changed from the ending that I had expected. Right? That's something that fucking flips you out, right? Because it's like, can movies even do that? Like, I didn't know you could do that with the fucking movie. Change the ending while it's in theaters? That makes no sense. Why would they even do that? It was a unique thing. And so creepypastas had that same aura to them, where they always had slight differences in the story or multiple stories floating around about the same subject matter, like Slenderman. And that gave it this mystery to it and this freakiness behind it. And when you were young and in high school, and I was young and in high school in the early 2000s, oh gosh, it's so crazy to say, man. I need to stop saying that. Every time I say it, I grow another fucking gray hair. But I was in high school in the early 2000s, and nobody really knew. When you were a kid in high school, you didn't know that what people were doing was this creepypasta, what creepypastas were, and people were just copying each other's stories and posting it on the internet. You didn't realize that's what was happening. You just thought, oh my God, there's people all over the world talking about this fucking Slenderman dude. He must be real, you know? So, anyways, had to be there sort of thing, right? Without these internet forums, creepypastas wouldn't be as fascinating as a phenomenon. Absolutely. The medium where these stories were popularized shaped what was possible and successful in their writing. Types of creepypastas. In my reading, I discovered that most creepypastas can be boiled down to two types: those meant to convey a first-hand experience or a historical hearsay, and ones that create a lore for a creepy image. That, at least as far as original creepypastas go, that's definitely true. I think there's a couple different types of creepypastas out nowadays, but those were the two main. This guy right here, The Rake, is the name of this creepypasta image. This was a freaky image that was running around the internet, and somebody wrote a story called The Rake and attached it to that image in forums, and that's what it ended up becoming. That the story about this fucking creepy ass picture. While not perfect, these two categories are helpful to explain the how of writing a creepypasta. Example of the first category can be found in creepypastas like Ben Drowned, 1999, or Sonic Execute. These stories are all written as retellings of spooky events that happened to the authors either in the present day or many years ago. Others in this category are not about the authors themselves, but supposed historical events. The most famous of these is likely the Russian sleep experiment. We're going to be talking about that a little bit later in the stream. The other category focuses less on appearing true and more on developing backstories and explanations for creepy images shared on these forums. And so we have three right here. Let's see if oh, good, this one got bigger. There's Jeff the Killer. We're going to be talking about him. There's Smile Dog. I already mentioned him, and we're going to be talking about him again. And then this is a Slenderman photo from back in the day, right? So there you have it. Fandom is more of an influence in these types of stories. Those privy to the original images wanted to participate in a network of shared character development and generate lore as a community. Again, such a cool fucking idea, dude. People, a community of people writing the story in real time, which again, people at the time didn't know that's what they were doing. And I'm sorry I get so excited about this. I'm fucking nerding out on it, but this is the kind of shit that I fucking nerd out on, dude. That's such a massive, culturally, is such a significant difference in like millennial, Generation X, and Generation Z culture than to every other American culture that came before it. Baby Boomers, Silent Generation, Greatest Generation, all of them. The complete difference between, one massive difference is the internet community that our generations were privy to. And this is like the perfect use of it. This is one of the most, in a funny way, it's kind of funny because we're talking about fucked up stories, but in a funny way, it is wholesome that all these people on the internet loved this Smile Dog story and this image so much that they just wanted to add to it. And so they just clicked in, they said, I'm just going to make my own little thing. They added it to the lore, and then other people accepted it and said, oh, that's creepy, this, that. Other people created other images of Smile Dog to add to the story. And before long, without any of these people realizing it, they together as a community, people from all over the world, motherfuckers in China, motherfuckers in the USA, motherfuckers in Australia and England and all over the whole world who had the internet, were sitting in their bedrooms, in their fucking little basements, in their mom's basement, playing games, and then making this folklore that was the folklore of our generation, creating these stories together, adding their little 2 cents into it and adding to the lore. And I think that's so cool. Such to talk about a collaborative effort, like that. There's nothing more collaborative than that. Eventually, someone would craft a story deemed acceptable by the group, and the picture and the story would be shared together as a creepypasta. Both have similar writing styles that are the final key to the unique craft of this genre, right? And so, style of creepypasta, point of view. So there's different styles of creepypastas. One of the more famous ones is point of view. I forget who this is, what this creepypasta is. I remember that face very vividly. Not Jeff the Killer. Is that Jack? Something Jack? Not Simple Jack. Never go full retard. Not Simple Jack. Not. There's like two different Jack. Eyeless Jack. That's it. This is Eyeless Jack. Right. Okay. As previously stated, many creepypastas were written to convince readers that the events were factual and experienced by the author. Because of this, the author tended to rely on first-person writing. Since they are typically the main character of the story, this perspective makes sense. Third person can make the reader feel removed from the story and deliver details that would be unknown to the perspective of the main character. First person feels more intimate, and if details are framed as the character's experience, there is less room to declare something as contradictory, right? So that's, if you know anything about writing, if you do any writing yourself, you're well aware of that. Altogether, this makes first person the easiest and preferred point of view for creepypasta authors. However, third person was used when the story was written like historical reporting or was part of the second category previously mentioned. Stories like Gateway of the Mind, Polybius, and the Russian Sleep Experiment were written like a third person report, likely because their events are more extreme than other creepypastas and would prompt more questions if the author claimed firsthand experience. That's definitely true. Those stories are more believable in third person because, well, nobody survived, at least in the Russian sleep experiment. Changing the perspective in this instance makes them feel more believable. Third person instantly gives an air of hearsay and directs any potential questions on speculation rather than the author's experience. Setting. Most creepypastas were set in the present day or during the author's childhood. While the easiest explanation is that they are drawing influence from their own experience, two other considerations might have made it more common. These stories needed to be convincing, but not verifiable outside of the author's retelling, and referencing relevant pop culture with pre-existing creepy associations helped to do this. Despite the most famous stories being written in the late 2000s, early 2010s, when online gaming and social media were plentiful, they focused on pieces of media and technology from around a decade before. For example, Ben Drowned used a copy of Legends of Zelda Majora's Mask in 1999, centers around a local cable television channel. Both of these stories use media unique to their respective eras that are nearly impossible to duplicate, so the reader has to trust the author's retelling. Since games stored their memory on the cartridge, only someone with that exact copy of Ben Drowned could verify the story from Ben Drowned. Likewise, someone would have needed to watch the same local channel at the exact time mentioned in 1999, or somehow had a videotape of the episodes. We're going to be talking a little bit about 1999 here towards the end of the podcast too. That's another one that'll pop up. And let's see, we can go hop up over that. That's just talking about pop culture references, which was a unique aspect of it, but not in all of them. Pop culture, turned up in Lavender Town, Ben Drowned, Sonic Execute, Suicidal Squidward, things like that. Writing techniques, a creepypasta author's goal of convincing anonymous readers influenced many aspects of the writing and delivery, sometimes to the point of creating their unique tropes. Copycats and writers wanted to participate in the community, turned what once occurred in a single story into an expected style choice to be considered a true creepypasta. So, inevitably, because they wanted, just to condense that, because they wanted their stories to be believable, there was certain techniques that they had to employ in their writing. Those ended up becoming tropes that other writers decided, oh, you need to write like this in order to create a creepypasta. So they started writing that way in creepypastas. Timelines. Some writers would organize their stories into a timeline of events, starting with when they discovered the occult or supernatural thing and continuing day by day until they either vanquished the thing or escaped from it. Prominent examples include Psychosis, which begins the story on Sunday and ends with a date unknown after 5 days of entries, or Ben Drowned, which labeled its parts by the number of days since the author was given the haunted video game. And that goes through a reason why they kind of go through that sort of organization. Justifying grammatical errors and clunky syntax. Thanks to famous creepypastas like Sonic Execute, most people assume they are badly written stories riddled with terrible grammar, and some of them are. We're going to dive into at least one of them for certain. While most of these aren't as egregious as that one, misplaced commas and odd sentences became a feature, not a bug of them. In some instances, these authors would justify it as part of their story, their typos and repetitive sentences as a result of them being scared or losing sleep. So, for some examples here, we're going to go from Ted the Caver. In an effort to present this experience in as accurate light as possible, I will type my journal as I wrote it. Sans grammar check. Please overlook my errors. Very clever way to not have to edit your own story and save time there. Coming from somebody who writes, that's definitely one of the most tedious aspects of writing is the editing part. So whoever wrote Ted the Caver was a fucking genius right there. Other stories like Candle Cove or Smile Dog, Candle Cove, we'll go over that later in the stream, include supposed emails and copy-pasted forum posts where typos and bad grammar would be more common. However, many creepypastas do not explain away their writing flaws. Some sort of implies that the author is scared and writing hastily, but others simply have bad grammar with no explanation. Regardless, though, that did become a big part of creepypastas, where a lot of them included bad grammar. Claiming disbelief. To heighten how crazy or terrible these events were, creepypasta authors often write about how they aren't religious or don't believe in spiritual stuff. And there's an example there. Like other tropes, this is another tool to convince the readers these events are real. The author shares their disbelief with the audience, admitting that events are absurd, but that they wouldn't be sharing these things unless they were true. Overly detailed explanations. Authors of creepypastas have a habit of providing extremely specific details and justifications for parts of their story. Yeah, this can sometimes get to the point of hilarity, particularly in the original creepypastas. One that we'll look at that has all of these tropes almost dialed to 11 to their worst extremes was Jeff the Killer. While some of these tropes feel like conscious decisions, this one could go either way, either exemplifying a balancing act of a believability or completely crashing the story. A good example of this can be found in Disney-inspired story Suicide Mouse. Yeah, this was an interesting one. The cartoon was actually 9 minutes and 4 seconds long. This is what my source emailed to me, in full. He is a personal assistant on one of the higher executives at Disney and acquaintance of Mr. Malton himself. So, like, that right there is a detail you would never need in the story. If you were writing an actual, like, book, your editor would be like, do we need to know this? No, we don't. Cut it out. You don't need that. Chop that little piece of the story. So anyways, yeah, we'll go past that. In conclusion, while I can't control how a term is used colloquially, I would argue that creepypasta deserves better use than just internet horror stories, even if I would be the first to admit that's inevitably what it devolved into. Now when people are talking about modern day creepypastas, which doesn't happen often because modern day creepypastas just aren't as relevant, they lost a lot of the mystique that they had in the early 2000s, right? Where were we? Internet horror stories. Yeah, it's still, that is what it has devolved into, unfortunately. A lot of the modern day internet creepypastas are just simply short stories, and they don't have that amazing sense of community and the cultural phenomenon that they had back in those days, which is unfortunate and sad, but all good things have to come to an end. If they didn't, we would all get sick of them anyways. So I guess it's a blessing that creepypastas inevitably ended when they're at the height of their fame, so that they're remembered in a good tone, a good light, right? Sort of like a boxer that quits when he's at the height of his career will always be remembered as the baddest motherfucker, versus the guy that continues boxing and gets his ass beat for 6 more fights, and then everybody remembers him for those last 6 fights he got his ass beat. So those famous stories created a genre that could only have emerged under the circumstances of early internet culture. These stories are reflective of their time, like young adult vampire romances and post-apocalyptic novels, and should be cherished as such. While those novels demonstrate the values of a post-9/11 U.S. seeking escapist literature, creepypastas show the value of a world just beginning to see the possibilities of an online presence. So, because I had my own qualms with that vague definition, I'll end this by proposing my own. Creepypastas are a genre of horror developed in early internet forums intended to convince readers of their veracity and be shared widely via copying and pasting to other avenues of the web. Good on you, sir, Mr. Luke Henderson. I like this guy. I'll give his thing a little clap. Oh, I have to sign in. Okay, no claps for you, Luke. Sorry about that. But yeah, anyway, so there you have it. That's what a creepypasta is. That's a good basic rough history of where creepypastas came about, right? They happened in internet forums, people sharing them around, and the creepypasta word, where that comes from. And then he did a really great job, I thought, of breaking down the characteristics of a creepypasta that make it separate from just a regular horror story, right? So wanted to share that with you. Now we're going to jump into a video on the history of creepypastas, give us some more dates and times, and maybe some of the first stories that popped up. We're going to go ahead and play this video. This is from Creepy Plays YouTube channel. They're a bigger channel. I've never heard of them, though. If this video ends up being good, because I'll admit I haven't watched it yet. If it ends up being good, though, give him a like and subscribe for giving us an awesome video. But okay, without further ado, here.
Creepypastas have been around for quite a few years now, amassing a few 100,000, if not over 1 million fans. Throughout its lifetime, the creepypasta fandom have grown and developed many sides outside just writers, such as artists, the narrators, the shippers, etc.
To some extent, that is kind of true too. I did kind of want to touch on that. Creepypastas did inevitably at some point become more than just writers and people on the internet writing. Again, an aspect of the creepypastas that got me into writing wasn't just creepypastas themselves or the fact that they're out there. Otherwise, I would have just written creepypastas instead of diving into how to actually write short stories and such. I started writing creepypastas because they started making money. Around 2016 and 17 is when Netflix started coming around and paying big fucking bucks for people's original creepypastas that were online. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later in the episode. But yeah, this guy is right. Eventually, creepypastas did spawn, artists took inspiration from creepypastas, were able to create pieces of art like Jeff the Killer here that became attached to various creepypastas, and it became a multi-medium art form, which is really cool. Just like you would think of a film, right? There's numerous people that contribute specific skill sets to creating a film. There ended up being different artists with different skill sets that ended up contributing those skill sets to any one individual creepypasta.
But despite the mass growth of the fad, not many people know the true origin of creepypastas and how it came about. First, let's look at the term creepypasta. Why is it named after an Italian food? Well, actually, technically, it's not. The original
Italian food. I do have to share with you, when I was telling my cutie pie about I'm going to do a video on creepypastas, I was telling her that, and I asked her if she knew about it, and she said, yeah, I know it is, but it kind of sounds like, some sort of like nasty pasta or something. I forgot her exact words, but it was like, yeah, a lot of the creepypasta word is kind of unique and funny like that. But anyways.
The original way to say it way back when is creepypasta. The term creepypasta derives from the term copypasta or copy-paster, which has a similar enunciation issue. And going back another step, copypasta comes from copy and paste, a simple computer command which is the main driving force as to how this whole internet subgenre started. The reason for this issue is that it's hard to type out paster without either keeping the original enunciation and losing the similar spelling to paste, or vice versa. Which is why I've not seen much of a fuss made on how it should be said, mostly just preference or how you exposed to the terms in the first place. Going back to the topic of origin, some people claim that this or that site here and there started whatever aspect of creepypastas or copypastas. It's also very hard to name anyone who has pioneered the way and shaped the genre due to the impersonal and anonymous nature of this trend. It's honestly very hard to track down because the very idea of copypastas is that it's something that's copied and pasted around for people's amusement. A notable example of this is the Navy SEAL copypasta, which dates back to 2010, almost half a decade ago, and I've seen still used today. Copypastas were a big thing, and in simple terms, when people started applying the trends and traits with horror, a simple play in words and the term creepypasta was born. Now, the style of creepypastas have changed significantly since its birth. Originally, a popular creepypasta would have an element of realism, believability for it to be spread, and when a good story came about, it spread like wildfire. Part of what made a lot of them believable is that there was no set creepypasta websites back then, unlike now with credited authors and such. You would happen upon one while searching the internet, pasted on random message or image boards, blogs or meme sites. The fact that it's near impossible to find the original author to some of these original creepypastas added to their element of horror, with the whole concept of where did this come from, and what happened to the author. Without anyone there to ask, or not seeing them write about different characters in other stories, adds to the atmosphere of, this could have really happened to that person. A fun thought is that, do you remember those chainmails you used to get? Probably still got now. The ones talking about a dead girl visiting you at 3:33 tonight if the email wasn't sent to 10 other people. Also, you've all seen the copied and pasted comments on Facebook, YouTube and Twitch etc. with the same nature. The fact that they are pasted around and creepy, plus they've been around for a very long time, sort of means that they can be considered a form of the original creepypasta. After such sites were made and there was a hub to upload creepypastas onto, that is when continuity and community started to form. People could see a monster from one story and write their own take or their own experience with said monster. This is very prominent with characters such as Jeff the Killer, the Rake, Smile Dog, Ben Drowned and most of all Slenderman, spawning the term pasta monsters. I could talk more about each of these characters, but I think I'll save that for another video. Nowadays, the common view of creepypastas have changed drastically from its original definition, where now, if you copy and paste someone's story, it's no longer seen as an accomplishment for the author, but is now heavily frowned upon as some people take it upon themselves to get their name known through writing. Also, a lot.
Yeah, that's definitely something that changed the game. Funny enough, I was even going to bring that up, that I thought that definitely had a hand in killing the creepypasta genre. The idea that people who made these stories and saw these stories get famous, because when a lot of people wrote their original creepypastas, they just put it on forums. They never really thought it was going to get famous, and suddenly, boom, it became, Slenderman became a cultural phenomenon. And now people are making video games about it. Well, if you're the guy who created Slenderman, and you just meant it as, to scare some people on the internet, and then 5 years later, motherfuckers are making movies about it, and you're like, whoa, this is my character. I created this guy. I want some money, bitch. Like, you guys are making a fucking $10 million movie about this shit. Like, I want some moolah. Like, spread the love, son. And because of that, though, because people started authoring them, putting their names on them, saying, hey, I created this story, it lost all that appeal of, this is just a story that people are talking about on the internet that's happening to unknown people, and occasionally somebody pops in and says, yeah, this happened to me. Like, that takes a lot of that mystery away, and inevitably killed the community aspect of creepypastas, because now the community can't add to your creepypasta, right? So some of the authors were good about it and were very smart about it, where they would write a creepypasta and it would be known that they wrote the creepypasta, but then they would give other people some leeway to add to their lore. One clever way that I remember seeing this being done was Infected Town was a really good creepypasta. We'll talk about at some point on stream. Not today, but in a different stream. Probably when we go over my favorite creepypastas, I'll include Infected Town, because Infected Town made real good use of the comment section of that creepypasta. You could get on Reddit, the subreddit, I think it was No Sleep, subreddit No Sleep, is where they posted Infected Town. And in that creepypasta, the comment section to the story would be filled with characters from the story. Like, the person who wrote the story actually made a separate Reddit account for each character in the story, and the characters in the story would be talking to each other in the comments, and then everybody in the comments who had just read the story could sit and interact with the characters and get more information about the story, or more information on each individual character from the character themselves. That was fucking genius. Like, that writer, whoever did that, like, golf clap for that motherfucker, right? That was so goddamn smart. Anyways, other notes I wanted to make, my cutie pie is cooking her meatballs right now, and oh my fucking god, I can smell it. It smells so good. I'm like, oh, it smells delicious. My whole house smells amazing right now, like Thai curry and meatballs. And I also thought, on a completely separate note, that was pretty random, but I had to throw that out there. But on another note, yeah, I can smell it. It smells so good, cutie pie. Gosh. I don't know what you're doing up there in the kitchen, but it's magical down here. It smells delicious. So, Super Ono. and I don't get to get none of it at all because I'm on a diet. I can't even touch it. I'm gonna have to sit and nibble on my little tiny saltine cracker while you eat your delicious fucking Thai curry in front of me. It's horrible. It's sad. It smells really good though. You're doing a great job, Hot Stuff. I haven't even seen it yet, and I can already tell that it's probably going to be amazing. On another note, I really find it funny, the subject matter that this video is talking about, and this increasingly large face from Jeff the Killer getting closer and closer to the camera, which is obviously very creepy. And then contrasting that with the classical music in the background, I just found that really funny. I thought that was an interesting artistic decision there.
A lot of people disregard the sense of believability in place of horror, with results like the protagonist dying in the end or the world ending, making these creepypastas more akin to short horror stories or flash fiction. But they are still considered creepypastas because the definition and meaning of the genre itself changes as the fandom grows. Because I don't think anyone predicted or knew how big this craze would be. And personally, I look forward to seeing which direction this internet phenomenon takes. Anyway, that's all for now, but if you want to see a specific backstory of a character, let me know which one you want to watch. Anyway, thanks for watching and goodbye.
And goodbye.
Look on dollar.com.
Okay, yeah. Like this guy, subscribe, give it a like. Not a lot of visuals there, but that's cool. It gave us the gist of what we needed. Yeah, my girlfriend just texted me a video of the dinner that I don't get to eat. She's just purposely torturing me for the fun of it. Live on stream for your entertainment. It looks really good though, cutie pie. It looks delicious. Smells so good. The whole house is going to smell like this all day long, and I'm totally down with that. Okay, so that's the history of creepypastas. At this point, you guys are just about experts on creepypasta history, right? Yeah, I mean, that about sums it up for the most part. We do want to dive into some of the specifics. What were some of the first creepypastas? When did they first emerge? And maybe who wrote them? Where did some of the images from these different creepypastas come from? That sort of thing. So we're going to kind of dive into a little bit of that right now. That's where we're going for the remainder of the stream. So I found here on creepypasta.fandom.com. This is it's like a creepypasta wiki, and it's a really good resource for if you want to dive into some of the creepypastas. They have a really long list of some of the original creepypastas. I don't know how many newer creepypastas are being shown on this particular website, but I know that they have a lot of the older ones. And I'll give you a whole bunch of different websites that you can go to read some of these creepypastas if you're interested. So anyways, this is kind of a timeline. Oh, I got to sneeze. Woo. Wow. That sneeze would have been any harder. It would have ripped my mustache off. Jesus. That was intense. Might have blown a gasket there. Felt a pain in my sternum. Okay. So yeah, we're not going to go down this entire timeline here because as you can see, it's pretty extensive. But if we just kind of start off here at the beginning so you get a good idea for it. 1996, I thought this was kind of funny. February 27th, Pokemon Red and Pokemon Green are released in Japan. They both include the original Lavender Town music. So that's a bit of creepypasta history because of the Lavender Town creepypasta, which was a story that posited that they took the Lavender Town music out of the American version, which they did. They removed the Lavender Town music out of the American versions of Pokemon Red and Green because they said the music, when it was released in Japan, it made Japanese kids go crazy. They went psycho and did some psycho shit. So you'll have to read the creepypasta. But yeah, so they even put the release of the original Pokemon Red and Green on the creepypasta list. January 16th, 1997, Texan journalist Brian Bethel posts an account of an encounter with a so-called black-eyed children to the Alt Folklore Ghost Stories board on Usenet. This has been largely determined to be the genesis of the urban legend. Okay, so this is probably the original OG creepypasta then, right there, which I've never heard of, never seen. We can maybe try typing this in a little later in the stream and seeing if we can find black-eyed children. I actually never thought to do that because I kind of wanted to show you some of my favorites of the original creepypastas, the ones that were the most influential. In 1998, Polybius is archived as a page on coinop.org, an arcade gaming website. So that would probably be one of the original creepypastas too. September 28th, Red and Blue are released worldwide, including an altered version of Lavender Town's theme. And in 2000, eBay user Mr. No Reserve lists a 1972 painting titled The Hands Resist Him for $200. The post has a description warning potential buyers of strange circumstances surrounding the picture, which can apparently cause harmful and anomalous effects. I don't know what that's in reference to. Huh, that's interesting. We'll kind of have to read on a little bit more in this to figure out what eventually happens with this painting, but I've never heard anything of this. This might be an OG creepypasta that I've never read. February 27th, Usenet board Rec Games Video Archive Collecting inquires as to the validity of Polybius, furthering the story's reach and influence. October 28th, Cry Baby Lane, the original Nickelodeon television film, airs for the first time. So all three, both those two events must have eventually inspired a creepypasta that I'm not aware of. 2011, Ted the Caver Story begins on Angelfire page, known originally as Ted's Caving Page. April 11th, Usenet user Al Kosau claims the Polybius story was invented by fellow Usenet user Cyberyogi. Another reply in the thread by MacMan appears to support this. 19th, Ted the Caver stops updating his page. November 20th, John Bergeron, the creator of I Feel Fantastic, makes the first post about the project. Okay, I Feel Fantastic. Interesting. I might have to check that one out. Same with Cryberry Lane and The Hands That Resist Him. Those must be... is a painting that was created by artist Bill Stoneham in 1972. It depicts a young boy and a female doll standing in front of a glass panel door against which many hands are pressed. According to Stoneham, the boy is based on a photograph of himself at age 5. The doorway is a representation of the dividing line between the waking world and the world of fantasy and impossibilities, whilst the doll is a guide that will escort the boy through it. The titular hands represent alternative lives or possibilities. History, new painting in the series. So, interesting. We'll have to read a little bit more on that. That might be something fun to internet folklore that we'll have to dive into. I mean, because I'm going to do this episode on creepypastas, obviously, but at some point it would be kind of cool to do just a whole stream on internet folklore, right? Because there's more internet folklore out there just outside of creepypastas, right? Think like, what's that fucking shitballs? What's that Twitter page, the Twitter guy with the ghost. He had a little kid ghost. They just made a fucking movie about it, and it wasn't a very good movie, unfortunately, which is a huge bummer. But this guy made essentially an interactive ghost story on Twitter where he said he was being claimed by a little kid's ghost. I forget the name of it, damn it, right now, but we'll go over that too at some point in a different stream because that would be kind of cool. The original association with the Backrooms is uploaded. What everybody knows about the Backrooms. 4chan is founded. 2004, Something Awful. User Smorky uploads modified versions of Nancy and Archie comics with the first mentions of the word Zalgo. I haven't heard of a lot of these. Screenwriters. Eric Kaiser's first book, The Donahue House. I believe that's a Never-Ending House. I'm kind of running through this quickly here to myself. Here we're starting 2005. We're starting to get a lot of the OG pictures that ended up becoming creepypastas. Jeff the Killer's photo. Ted the Caver appears on National Speleological Society message board and pronounces that his story is fictitious. The earliest posts about the rake are made on 4chan. Another edit of Jeff the Killer photo is posted to a Japanese forum. Freak Soup Guy is uploaded to YouTube, later becoming known as Blank Room Soup. So yeah, this is a nice little timeline. I'm going to link this in the comment section for all you creepypasta lovers that really want to dive into some of the originals. Looks like they have... Is this a link to Lavender Town or... Oh, okay. Yeah, this is a link to the original Lavender Town Syndrome. Look at that. Wow. So they really... And is this a link to the original Polybius? It is. Wow, look at that. Holy tit balls, man. All right, that's really cool. So, yeah, there you have it. I'll make sure I link this in the comments or in the description to the YouTube video. So any of you that are watching, you want to go through and check out some of these original creepypastas, you'll have them. I'm going to give you some of the big dogs of the original creepypasta, some of the very first ones, and they will also include links to those in the description, and we're going to actually go over those on stream right now. So we're going to go ahead and exit out of this. Well, we'll keep this around just maybe for future reference when these originals came out. We'll see. We might come back to that. We might not. So, had a cough. Oh, yeah. Here, let me hop back over to this guy. Here we go. Okay. Hi again. So let's go ahead and we're going to jump into the first big creepypastas, right? Because Polybius, I think Polybius, Lavender Town, aren't necessarily big names in the creepypasta world. I mean, most people know of the Lavender Town syndrome, but a lot of people, I haven't actually met anybody who knows what Polybius is. That seems like kind of esoteric knowledge. You have to be a real creepypasta nerd to remember Polybius. Some of these I've never even heard of. Same with the Rake, Zalgo, Backrooms. Everybody's heard of the Backrooms, right? Ted the Caver is a big, very popular one. Crybaby Lane is one that I haven't heard of, so I'm going to have to look into that. I Feel Fantastic. I'm pretty sure the Diane house, I don't know how to pronounce that word, but I'm pretty sure that's the Never-Ending House, which I've heard of, and I will read that one. So there's a few in here that I've heard of, but there's some of them that are so rare, I guess, that I myself haven't even heard of some of these, right? Where was it at? The Hands That Resist Him, I have no idea what that's in reference to. Where was it at? There was another one in there. Freaky Soup Guy. I don't know anything about the Freaky Soup Guy, so I'm going to have to check that out. So yeah, anyways, I'll keep this up, but a lot of these are more, what's the word I'm looking for? They are more unknown, I guess, for lack of a better word, because I can't think of the word. My cutie pie is busy. Usually she is the one that reminds me of words I can't remember, but she is busy cooking, so we're left on our own here. A lot of these are unknown comparative to some of the more popular ones. So we're going to go over the original creepypastas that were the most popular and some of the most inspirational as far as creepypastas go. So, the beginning. It all started with the invention of the internet, seen as a luxury before expanding into a common household service, and with little to no moderation. Something was bound to happen at some point. The rumored beginning of the creepypasta were spam emails, although I cannot find what they contained. The first true beginning that we are aware of is a story named Ted the Caver. So, from what I've always heard, what everybody's always told me, Ted the Caver was the original OG creepypasta that really started it all and kind of defines what a creepypasta is. I mean, even defined that style of writing, right? Where it's riddled with spelling errors. It's written in a timeline from a first-person perspective. All the things we went over in that first article were all introduced in Ted the Caver. Ted the Caver follows Ted, obviously, as he and a small group of friends traverse a local cave which continuously gets more and more horrifying. The story was uploaded online in 2001 and is considered the first ever creepypasta. It tells the extensive, and I mean extensive, yes, it is a very long story. I mean, this dude had his own web page that he continuously posts to, and he posted a lot to it, which included a lot of pictures, as you can see here. Lots of pictures that came with the story. It tells the extensive tale of Ted and his friend as they both explore the cave and stranger things keep happening. It ends on a cliffhanger where we are left to presume Ted has died. Is presume the correct word there, or is it assume? I believe it would be assume, not presume. Anyways, while we now know about the beginning of creepypasta culture, there is still more to discuss. Particularly one subject that originated. Okay, we'll dive into that here in a minute. I wanted to introduce you guys to Ted the Caver. I will definitely have this link in the description for those of you that haven't read it. Just click meow. And these are all of Ted's updates from his original website, the original Ted the Caver webpage that he had. I think, oh, I don't know if the webpage is still open. Look at that. Angel Fire. It is still there. Holy fuck balls, man. Updated on 2001. Wow, that's crazy. Over 20 years ago, this guy started this fucking webpage. Isn't that wild? So you can click here and get the real deal experience. Let's see, the discovery. Work begins. So yeah, it goes through shitballs. Listen, Mr. Adblock, I wonder how much money this guy makes from this webpage now. Look at, he's got all these ads and shit that pop up on it. I wonder if this dude still is making money from this fucking story on this webpage. That's so crazy. That would be cool. I mean, I hope he is, dude, because he created the first original creepypasta, and it is a very clever creepypasta. See, he includes links to various pictures. This is his dog. I think the dog's name was Whip or Whap or something. Oh, we got out of it. Okay, darn. Well, so there's a dog in there, and his name is Whippy, Whipper, some shit like that. So, anyways, yeah, you can read it here on Creepypasta Wiki, where he just dives in. You just click next, and he gives you all the original images from the cave, right? We'll just read the beginning. We'll read the very first entry. And if you guys feel like you really want to dive into it, then I will have the link in the description so you guys can do that. Norton, internet security, get the fuck out my face. Keeps popping up on my computer. And every time it does, it says your computer's about to explode. And then I click on it. It's like, you have to pay us $20. And it's like, you fuckers. If I would have known you were upselling me every 5 seconds, I would have never bought Norton. I would have went with another security system. But whatever. Okay. So here's the beginning of Ted the Caver. January, February, March. I have to count out the months on my fingers, so fucking sue me. March 23rd, 2001. Due to the overwhelming number of requests I've received to tell about my discoveries and bizarre experiences in a cave not far from my home, I have created this webpage. I will outline the events that happened to me during the past few months, beginning with my journey into a familiar cave in December 2000 and ending, well, it hasn't actually ended yet. I will use my caving journal as the text to tell about my recent experience. I will give them to you as I experience them in chronological order. I have included photographs that were taken during my many trips into the cave. I have also created a few illustrations to help the reader get a better idea of what things look like in the cave. All of the photos were taken by me or one of the few people I went into the cave with. I want to point out a few things before I tell about the events. 1. Most of the pictures were taken with a Kodak disposable type camera. I took a better camera into the cave on 1 or 2 of the trips. Pictures on this site are all original photos and have not been messed with or enhanced, other than were noted. As a rule, I get my pictures put on disk at the time of developing, so I don't have to scan them later. This ensures the best digital quality. 2. I will not reveal the names of the other people involved in this experience. If you know me well enough, you probably know them already. 3. I will not reveal the location of the cave to anyone for any reason, so please don't ask. I refuse to be held accountable for anyone's life but my own. I will refer to the cave as Mystery Cave. That is not its real name. So see, that's a very clever way to give the name of a cave, but then step the possibility for someone to actually look for the name of that cave, find out where it's at, talk to other people who have been there, or find out it's not a real cave, or find out people go there every day and what you're talking about didn't happen. Realistically, most of the pictures he probably includes were pictures just from caves that everybody had been to. Like, they're probably pretty popular caves to visit, right? But he didn't want you to know that, right? The whole point of this was to make it believable. So that's a very clever way to make it seem like, oh yeah, I'm not going to tell you the name of the cave, so don't fuck with it. If you think these events sound far-fetched, I agree. There's that disclaimer, right? I would come to the same conclusion had I not experienced them myself. We kind of talked about that in the very first article, how it became pretty common trope for all creepypastas to include that disclaimer in them, right? Like, oh yeah, no, I think it's crazy too, bro. Totally not a believer. I will try to finish the site as soon as possible. Check the date on the main page to see when I've made updates. To protect myself from people who might want to copy this site, I include the following. All text on this and following pages are my own words and copyright 2011. So there you go. Not a very exciting start to a story, I must say. It's very mysterious, okay? This person, let's see, somebody We're going to go back a page, actually. So, some words on Ted the Caver. It's definitely a spooky story, has its moments. So, this very first comment, this is an important story and all that, obviously, in terms of like historical context of creepypastas, but most of it are descriptions of cave exploring. Very little direct horror actually happening. And yeah, that is unfortunately true. Definitely wanted to put that out there for any of you who might be interested in reading Ted the Caver. A very large portion of the updates are just this guy cave exploring. And he talks about creepy parts of the cave, talks about him getting stuck in a part of a cave, maybe that happens a couple times, his dog getting lost in a cave once. But overall, the creepy shit happens more towards the end of the story. And like somebody else already said, I think it said it in the previous article, it's a long story. So be prepared to buckle up and be in there for the long haul if you really want the punchline, right? This person says, I absolutely love this story. I have a fear of caves, and the thought of a stalagmite or something landing on your head and impaling you isn't the scariest thing in a cave, is a great concept. I like the ending, with Ted saying how he'll update but never doing so. I like how it implies that most likely Ted died, but may have B and Joe, as they would probably know about the journal and would update it after Ted dies. So that's just all kind of hearsay. It does imply that possibly Ted died or not. You'd have to read the ending and decide for yourself what you thought. But, it is a good point here. If you have a fear of caves or claustrophobia specifically, because I don't know if anybody necessarily has a fear of caves. I think it's a fear of being stuck in a fucking cave, This story really plays on that really, really well. Yeah. So, honestly, one of the more creepy of creepypastas to exist because of how real getting stuck in a cave is. Yeah. Like I said, if that's something that seems freaky to you, then this is a good story for you to check out and read. And so there's a whole bunch of comments on here. Some of these are all newer ones too. I think it sorts them by the newest comments because this one was just made, 2 months ago? So, yeah, anyways, that's Ted the Caver. That's the beginning of Ted the Caver for you. If you're interested in checking it out, I'll have the link in the description to the YouTube video. So if you are really freaked out by caves in general, or freaked out, you have claustrophobia and shit like that, then definitely check out Ted the Caver, right? So we're going to move on here. Okay, we're going to pop over. Gonna get that out of here. We're going to skip over this right now and pop over to Jeff the Killer. And you know what? We're going to do that here in a split second because I'm going to pop you over to my Be Right Back screen, also known as my I Need to Take a Pee screen, because I need to take a pee. So you chill, enjoy this amazing screen right here, and I will be right back. Okay. All right. And we're back. It was a really quick pee. I have a bladder like a hummingbird. So, okay. Where were we at? We were on Jeff the Killer, right? Okay. So Ted the Caver was the OG creepypasta by a lot of people's standards. This this particular timeline looks like it points to Polybius being the original creepypasta, which it wasn't necessarily a creepypasta. I think Polybius was just a listing on coinop.org, if I remember correctly. I'll have to relook at that. That one's super short. Let's see. Ted the Caver is here in 2001. Is when he starts the story. If we keep looking, the earliest known version of Jeff the Killer photo is in 2005. When did Jeff the Killer story take place? I am looking. Stick with me. Oh, the Wyoming incident. I forgot about that. That was a good one. Just because I read it when I was in Wyoming, 2007. I was still in high school when that came out and lived in Wyoming. So I remember that being a pretty creepy story for me. Might pop that one up on a different stream. Might include that on my favorite creepypasta stream. Because I'm definitely going to make like 5 of my favorite creepypasta streams. I mean like 5 different streams of all my favorite creepypastas. Because I can just talk about these for days on end. See, Russian sleep experiment. 2009, as you can see here, is where this really blows up. Yeah. You're getting, there's Eyeless Jack. Russian sleep experiment. Ooh, Slenderman, Smile Dog, Candle Cove. All seem to happen in 2009. I have yet to see the Jeff the Killer yet, though. Where the original Jeff the Killer story happened. Could have sworn it happened. It's nice that they have every name of a creepypasta highlighted, though. Oh, that's when Crybaby Lane came out, was 2011. Normal porn for normal people. Oh, No End House. That's different than, I guess, the other one. Okay. So I don't know what the Dorian House or whatever. I haven't heard of that one. Oh, the Rugrats theory. Fuck that. Ooh, Pen Pal. That was a really good one. Yeah. That one made a fuck ton of money. Yeah. While I'm looking for it, I'll tell you about that. So it was around 2016 to 2017. Netflix came out, and in that one year, they spent close to about $80 million procuring streaming content. And a lot of that content was them going on the internet and paying a lot of the people who had the rights, the copyrights to these various creepypastas. Ooh, the Anasani's Goat Man, Anansi's Goat Man. That was such, I can never pronounce that name, Anansi, but that was a great one. Control F. For find. Oh, good. Look at you, cutie pie. You're a cooking beast, and you're giving me great advice here. Appreciate it. Okay, Jeff the Killer photos. Oh, look at it. Even highlights it over here. Creepypasta wiki user Game Fuel uploads the original Jeff the Killer in 2011. Okay, thank you, cutie pie. You just saved my ass right there. I appreciate you. Doesn't only cook amazing food, she also really good with computers, everybody. Okay, and then... Okay, so that's different. But yeah, so that's when the original Jeff the Killer came about, was 2011. So 8 years, right, after Ted the Caver. Ted the Caver was 2001, so 10 years after Ted the Caver. Wow, that's crazy. I did not know that. I totally thought Jeff the Killer was like 2007, 2008, but there you have it. So, okay, anyways, I'm going to finish my rant before we hop into Jeff the Killer. So, like I was saying, in 2017, 2018, Netflix was coming through and just spending mad amounts of money on procuring potential streaming content. And they were going through No Sleep Reddit subreddit and various creepypasta websites contacting authors or people who had the rights to specific creepypastas, and they were dropping like 200, 400, $500,000. Hey, what's going on, Bundy? Nice to see you again. Hope you had a good day at work. Yeah, she definitely saved my butt there. She's definitely good with Windows computers, which is very helpful to me because I suck with Windows computers. This is the first Windows computer I've owned since high school. So good thing I got Cutie Pie here to fill my house with amazing smells. Man, gosh, you need to smell this Thai curry that Cutie Pie is cooking right now. It is smells so fucking good. And I can't eat any of it too. It's horrible. She's torturing me on purpose is what she's doing. She's helping me out with my stream and also mentally and emotionally torturing me with her amazing food. So yeah, well, yeah, no, I mean, I don't know what you're doing tonight. Give Cutie Pie a call, see how much she made if she feels like sharing, because you know her. So, if she's doesn't want to fist fight you, oh, there you go. Come and get some if you like. Well, there you go, man. Yeah, come on over if you're feeling up to it, if you're not too tired from work or whatever, and get some of that fucking Thai curry and meatballs, bro, because it smells so good. And I can't, you guys got to eat all of it so there isn't any left when I come up there. Otherwise, I'm going to be tempted to eat some of it because, man, it smells so good. Not today, though. She seems like she's very excited to share. So I imagine she's pretty proud of it. She sent me a picture and it looked really good. She's definitely working pretty hard up there on it. So yeah, definitely, if you have time, come over and give it a try. I'm sure she wants to brag about how good it is. So yep, yeah. Yeah, well, it all worked out really good. I had the ground turkey left over, right? So yeah, it smells good though, Bundy. I'd consider coming and getting some. So, but in any case, though, thanks for hopping into the stream, man. I appreciate it. So, and thank you for the help, Cutie Pie. I appreciate you helping me with F1 right there because I forget that that's a thing on Windows computers. Okay. So, anyways, to all you who are watching the video, sorry, I got stuck on my rant camera, and y'all can't even see me. I'm talking with friends of mine. Anyways, so all of this content that Netflix was procuring from all of these different websites, they were paying a shit ton of money for that. And oh yeah, we got tornadoes happening here in Nashville. That's right. Yeah, I might want to stay inside, hunker down. I don't know how close it is to where you're at. I know Mount Juliet was in tornado warning. It isn't or tornado watch, excuse me. It's not a tornado warning. Not at least where we're at, because where we're at, it's just a tornado watch possible. Okay, well, now we're in a flash flood warning. We don't even have a tornado warning over here in Wilson. So, flash flood. Yeah, that's it. So, no tornado over here. So, might want to come over here then. You won't get swept up. Anyways, so yeah, the people like, which was the one that there was a particular creepypasta. I'm going to have to pop you over here. Okay, here we go. There was a creepypasta that made me want to start talking about this. I forgot which one it was. It was, Pen Pals. The guy who wrote Pen Pals got a publishing deal from a book company for one thing, but sold the movie rights for something like $400,000 for what amounted to a short novella, right? It wasn't even like maybe a 30,000 word story. Wrote a 30,000 word story and made almost $500,000 just on the movie rights alone. That's incredible. The guy who wrote, there was one creepypasta I liked that I can't remember the name of, and it was okay. It wasn't a particularly like famous one, but he ended up selling the rights to that creepypasta for like $700,000 to Netflix. And it was like a 5-page story. So at one point in a very small amount of time, that was the lucky. Those guys, were just there at the right time. They created creepypastas. They were smart enough to author their creepypastas, attach their names to it, and copyright it. And then when Netflix went to look into it, they had to pay them for the rights, and they were willing to do it. They ended up shelling out, again, like I said, they shelled out $80 million a year over the course of those 2 years just for getting content for their streaming service. So that would have been the time to jump into the creepypasta world and put down your best creepypasta and maybe make some quick cash. Nowadays, I don't think that's happening anymore. Nowadays, I think Reddit is flooded with people who saw that happening and tried to jump in on it and missed the boat. And now there's a bunch of good creepypastas on Reddit, but nobody's reading them because there's just too many. So kind of a bummer. One of those you just had to get lucky and be there at the right time sort of things. But anyways, Jeff the Killer. Let's jump into this. Creepypasta OG number 2. Jeff the Killer is among one of the most well-known characters from the Creepypasta fandom. While Slenderman is more recognized as a horror character, Jeff the Killer was supposedly published in 2011. Oh, well, it told us right there. I didn't even have to go looking through that whole fucking list. I probably should have read this first. And tells the story of Jeffrey Woods. Jeff moved into a new town. We don't need to hear that because I'm going to give you the original story. While the most popular creepypasta, Jeff the Killer is regarded as a fairly awful creepypasta in terms of literature. The story is not realistic enough to be frightening, there is little to no suspense to the story, and most of the characters' objectives aren't very clear. That's like the least of that story's worries. That story reads like it was written by a 15-year-old. It was not Jeff the Killer's literary prowess that got him to the level of fame that he is at now, but rather young teen girls' attraction to the fictional character. That's funny to say. And then, of course, the image, too. This is the original creepy Jeff the Killer image that inspired numerous recreations of this image. But yeah, that's a pretty freaky image right there, right? That was attached to the original story, and that's really what made it blow up, man. People saw that picture and were like, what the fuck? And that's what that, and apparently, yeah, young girls who thought this guy Jeff, my man Jeff here, was hot. So, you know, you can be a deformed man with lobster claws. There's still hope for you. You heard me correctly, although it may not be too surprising to you. Jeff the Killer has an insurmountable amount of fangirls who wish to go out with the character and even be like the character. The reason why I believe this is that the character's sad and dark past make him attractive. They see the character as a sad and broken teen who they couldn't fix, a bad boy, if you will. Oh, be quiet. You had a crush on him, cutie pie? First iDubbbz, and now Jeff the Killer. You certainly had a taste. I don't know. I would believe this. You are the girl that said, oh, yeah, iDubbbz used to be hot, so... iDubbbz and Jeff the Killer do have similarities, gotta say. Yeah, you had a type for sure. That's funny. Okay, anyways. So yeah, Jeff was the bad boy you couldn't fix. Now, I mean absolutely no harm to those who simply like the character romantically. As he is a fictional character, you can make him into anything you want him to be. However, there will always be a slight few who take it a little too far. Yeah, well, you know, that happens, but... yeah, so Jeff the Killer, he just pulling in the ladies, you know. How can you not with that charming, eyelidless smile, right? Ladies just go for that. Okay, so here's the original Jeff the Killer story right here. It is kind of a long one, though. Shit. Wow. Okay, I don't remember it being this long. You know, it's really fun to laugh at, so I'll give you the intro to it. We'll read a couple paragraphs deep so we can have a good laugh at the writing prowess of whatever teenager wrote this, you know. And then I'll make sure I link the story in the description of the YouTube video so you can read the rest of it yourself. So it starts, excerpt from a local newspaper. Ominous unknown killer is still at large. After weeks of unexplained, by the way, I just want to say, does that sound like something, a headline from a newspaper? The ominous unknown killer is still at large. They would call a killer ominous. Anyways, after weeks of unexplained murders, the ominous unknown killer is still on the rise. After little evidence has been found, again, the killer is still on the rise. Anyways, a young boy states that he survived one of the killer's attacks and bravely tells his story. I had a bad dream and I woke up in the middle of the night, says the boy. And they don't put the name of the boy. Again, for the purpose of a creepypasta, that's important because you don't want people to be able to actually like look these people up and find out they're not true. But this is supposed to be an excerpt from a newspaper again, right? No newspaper says the boy. They give you a name, right? I saw that for some reason the window was open, even though I remember it being closed before I went to bed. I got up and shut it once more. And because this is how young boys talk, right? I got up and shut it once more. Afterwards, I simply crawled under my covers and tried to get back to sleep. That's when I had a strange feeling like someone was watching me. I looked up and nearly jumped out of my bed. There, in the little ray of light illuminating from between my curtains, were a pair of two eyes. There's redundancy right there, a pair of two eyes. Theoretically, that means that there was four eyes staring at you because it's a pair of two instead of just a pair of eyes. But again, like we said, this is kind of the charm of Jeff the Killer. Like, it's clearly written by somebody who does not write, and it's fun. It kind of makes it a little entertaining. These weren't regular eyes. They were dark, ominous eyes. They were bordered in black. Bordered instead of outlined. Bordered in black. And just plain out terrified me. That's when I saw his mouth. A long, horrendous smile that made every hair on my body stand up. The figure stood there, watching me. Finally, after what seemed like forever, he said it. A simple phrase, but said in a way only a madman could speak. He said, "Go to sleep." I let out a scream. That's what sent him at me. He pulled up a knife, aiming at my heart. I jumped on top of my bed. I fought him back. I kicked, I punched, I rolled around, tried to knock him off of me. That's when my dad busted in. The man threw the knife. It went into my dad's shoulder. The man probably would have finished him off if one of the neighbors hadn't alerted the police, right? Because the man knew that the neighbor alerted the police. They drove into the parking lot and ran towards the door. The man turned and ran down the hallway. I heard a smash, like glass breaking, as I came out of my room. I saw the window that was pointing towards the back of my house was broken. I looked out it to see him vanish into the distance. I can tell you one thing. I will never forget that face, those cold, evil eyes, and that psychotic smile. They will never leave my head. The police are still on the lookout for this man. If you see anyone that fits the description in the story, please contact your local police department, right? So anybody with dark, ominous, evil eyes, and what did he say about the smile? A smile that just plain out terrifies you. A long, horrendous smile. So if anybody fits that description, call the police on him. So anyways, as you can see, we got comments here. I had to put on some funky beats, says this man. A pair of two eyes. Exactly, Cutie Pie. If you see anybody that has a pair of two eyes, contact the police. Right? Like if I see Jeff, I will scream and hug him. 3 replies here. Same. I'll be like, you're stuck with me, says Danielle. So Danielle's a little Jeff freak right there. She likes his pair of two eyes. She sees Jeff the Killer. She will hug him and say, "You're stuck with me." Oh, that's funny. Let's see. What were some of the comments up here? My dad busted. Same after reading this fire tale. See, that's the kind of good shit you can expect from the internet, right? That right there makes the case for unmoderate the internet. What was the comment up here? I didn't know this was still on Wattpad. Oh, this is on Wattpad. I didn't even realize this. Oh, shit. Well, there you go. You can go to Wattpad and read all kinds of different stories. I don't understand either of those two comments. Yeah, that makes it even funnier that you can, that people can comment on this. Ooh, 30 comments over here. This woman says, I want to kill him with hearts in her eyes. This guy says, fuck Randy. Let me kill him before Jeff does because he knows I will. Wow, okay. I bet that bitch is noob on Left 4 Dead. Hey, Ruby Brooks, 98. I am good. How are you doing? Thanks for popping into the stream. I don't know if you're a fan of creepypastas, but that's what we're doing right now. We're chatting about some of the OG original creepypastas. Good, good. Glad you're doing good. We're doing pretty good over here, too. Oh, thank you. I didn't realize you watched my stream. I really appreciate it. Yeah, actually, I am brand spanking new to streaming. I don't know if you could tell, but yeah, I think this is week 8 actually of me streaming, so pretty new. So appreciate you hopping into the stream because obviously one new streamer watching into Wallow Me or Watch Me represents like a 20% increase in streamer in viewership. So I'm at that level of streamer, so I appreciate it. But yeah, new to streaming. Do you stream, by the way? I recently realized that when people pop into my stream, I should probably ask if they have a stream so I can follow them back, check them out, all that good stuff. So if you have a stream that you do, let me know so I can give you a follow back. Oh, well, thank you. I really appreciate that, Ruby Brooks. You can't stream, huh? Why can't you stream? You're not into streaming? Oh, an artist and do work for streamer and gamer for the stuff. Okay, wow, that's really cool. So what kind of stuff do you do for streamers then? Like, do you make like, I guess you would do logo, banner. Oh, okay, that's what I was thinking. Logo, banner, overlays, alerts, panel, and emotes. Oh, wow, that's pretty cool. That's probably got to be a bit of a lucrative business, yeah? Yeah, absolutely. Drop me a link. I would love to check out some of your work. That would be way badass. I mean, I think you can do that, right? Drop a link. Is that how that works? You throw a link in there. That would be really cool. Yeah, and I'd love to throw it up on stream too in case anybody else watches. Oh, Discord. Yeah. Let me see. What is my Discord name? I just created a Discord for the first time last week because somebody else added me through Discord. So give me a second here. I got it right here. Discord name, Cool Beans Hot Stuff. With Cool Beans Hot and Stuff, all one word, and it's all uppercase. Here, I can type it in there too. There, just like that. So yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I know I do enjoy chatting with people on stream. That's kind of the whole reason that I wanted to stream in the first place instead of making like YouTube videos. One, YouTube videos kind of takes a little bit more work and I'm a little lazy on that end, but it's a lot funner to sit and bullshit with people while I'm streaming. My girlfriend and her brother usually pop in and sit and chat with me while we're streaming. So it's always enjoyable to have somebody to talk to. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, is Discord where Twitch streamers actually like what's the word I'm looking for? Where they network? Is that where all the networking takes place is on Discord? Because I'm starting to get that. More people have asked me about Discord than they have Twitch. So okay, just accepted your friend request on Discord. So yeah, shoot me some of your artwork. Do you got any of it on your Discord page? Okay. I'm gonna hop back on Jeff the Killer then. Okay, so yeah, the Jeff the Killer story is pretty long, right? There's a lot going on there. If we just got through the beginning, and that's probably maybe 1/5 of the whole story. But it's enough for you to see how entertaining the story is just because of the writing style, right? It's kind of like a 15-year-old wrote it. So, but it makes it funner to read. Definitely does. So I'll link that into the description and you guys can check it out if you feel like you really want to dive in and get the whole story. In the meantime, we're going to dive into something slightly different, still Jeff the Killer orientated. We're going to look into where the Jeff the Killer picture comes from, right? So the Jeff the Killer picture, that crazy guy with the lidless eyes and the creepy ass smile, right? That is a real picture that somebody else made completely separate from the person who wrote the story, right? So we're going to go ahead. I'm going to pop this video up. This is Accessible Funky on YouTube. Here, let me throw you over to the YouTube screen. There you go. Okay, Accessible Funky. Smaller channel, so if you like his video, give it a like and subscribe. And we're not going to watch his entire video. We're just going to give it about the halfway point just to see where this guy went through a lot of work to figure out where the original Jeff the Killer picture came from. So we're going to go ahead and see if he can figure out where the origins to this picture is, right? So check it out.
creepypastas on the internet, but it's also home to one of the biggest internet mysteries as well. Where did this picture come from? So many people have gathered around to find this iconic piece of lost media, scouring through the internet to find hints and pieces for the unedited image. As a fan of creepypastas and internet horror, I've gathered all these findings that these fine internet folk have found, and in this video, I'm taking on a wild journey as we try to figure out, where did Jeff the Killer's picture come from?
My name is Jeff.
Now, Jeff the Killer is one of the most iconic creepypastas ever, even though the story itself is hot trash. Now that I've read it recently as an adult with a full functioning brain, I believe what made this creepypasta become one of the greatest, one of the all-times of all time is this picture. This goddamn face has been haunting me as a kid for years now. Ever since I've seen this picture, I've been kept up at night staring at the corner of my window to see if Jeff would break in and tell me to go to sleep. So this Jeff character was created by DeviantArt user Sessoir, who has been posting on Newgrounds spreading the word on Jeff. Although the popular creepypasta wasn't written by Sessoir himself, the original story with Jeff is more of like a Bloody Mary type ritual, where the story is basically instructions on how to summon Jeff. Apparently in this version, Jeff gets his iconic look when he accidentally spilled a bucket of acid on his face while trying to clean his bathtub. Now the stories and the creepypasta itself aren't that interesting, but rather the image that accompanies it.
I switched from due dates to due dates, and it made me go from weeks behind to weeks ahead of my deadlines. You see, I used to just bed rot all day getting.
The deal with this image is that no one has any clue where it came from. It's obvious that it's a Photoshop of something, and there are a couple of stories people made up to try to explain where the original unedited image could have came from. Now, the most infamous story would be the Katie Robinson story. Allegedly, the original image of Jeff was a Photoshop picture of a girl who reportedly unalived themselves back in 2008 due to 4chaners bullying her for being fat. However, there are a lot of problems with the story. There really isn't any evidence that Katie Robinson existed. Every time you look up Katie Robinson, it's always only related to the Jeff image. There's also a video from Scare Theater where he interviewed Sessoir, and they claimed that the Katie Robinson story was completely bogus. And it wasn't until 2018, after an extensive research effort done from 4chan's paranormal board, this rumor was debunked. Turns out Katie Robinson isn't real, and the woman in this picture is actually alive. YouTuber Gage did an interview with Heather White, the real Katie Robinson, the lady that's in the picture, and apparently Katie's photo was taken from White's MySpace and was also used to spread other miscellaneous tales unrelated to Jeff. Now, another story on where this image came from was from Sessoir himself, the creator of Jeff the Killer. Apparently, in the interview with Scare Theater, he claimed that they created this photo themselves. Apparently, it's just a photo of themselves wearing a latex mask they wore, and they even talked about how valuable that mask would be if he had kept it due to the popularity of Jeff.
So that's that, huh?
On the surface, Sessoir's story makes sense. He created Jeff, so he probably made the image himself, right? Well, it turns out this picture has existed way before Sessoir created Jeff. There's a video on YouTube called the NNN broadcast. Doesn't stand for No Nut November, but it's actually based off a Japanese urban legend about a weird TV channel broadcasting strange shit in the wee hours of the morning. So in this video, there are some spooky images to make some jump scares and stuff. And one of these spooky jump scares turns out to be the now iconic Jeff image. Now, this video came out back in 2007, one whole year before Jeff the Killer was created, meaning that the OG Jeff image is floating around the internet somewhere, possibly from a Japanese source. And this also debunks Sessoir's story where they claim to
Okay. Here, we're gonna put this down a little bit, do some sleuthing of our own. According to this timeline, where was that? Jeff the Killer. August 1st, 2005 is when the earliest known, less edited version of Jeff the Killer photo is updated to a Japanese form. Okay, hold on. Let's look at this. Oh, wow. They have the whole form on here. That is definitely Japanese. So, I don't know what we're looking at. Okay, here. Oh, there it is right there. Loading. Okay. Oh, that's a bummer. Okay. You can kind of see it right there. A less edited version of the Jeff the Killer photo. There was another one up here, right? November 15th, another edited version. They don't have a link for that one, though. But okay, this is saying 2005. So, what did they say here?
Created the mask and wore it for a picture and everything. Not sure why he would even lie about that, but
Whatever.
Hello guys and gals, me Mudahar, and
ever since the discovery of Jeff's images on the NNN broadcast, this lit a fire up the internet's ass to find the true origins of Jeff's image, specifically the unedited original version. And the hunt also gained huge momentum thanks to the popularity of lost media on YouTube. There are also dedicated YouTube videos discussing Jeff's picture from YouTube channels such as Blame It on Jorge and Some Ordinary Gamers. Speaking of Some Ordinary Gamers, they actually put out a $10,000 bounty on whoever can find the unedited image. And there's also a subreddit r/original JTK image who have been looking for the unedited picture for years now. Now this subreddit is responsible for creating this very helpful document showcasing their findings, which is what I'm basing my video on. According to the subreddit, one of the earliest known instances of Jeff's image were found on the Japanese image board pia.cc, dating back to September and November 2005. This repost was created by a user named Omega Vault, so it's heavily implied that Omega Vault created this version of Jeff. However, it's not proven yet because the investigative team have been trying to get a hold of Omega Vault. Trying to get a hold of Omega Vault is probably as hard as trying to find the goddamn picture itself. Now, I don't know if you caught this, but I mentioned that this is one version of the Jeff image. It turns out, back in 2022, this image was found on the Japanese
Back in 2022? Oh, this is the thing we were just looking at right here.
image sharing site FileMan, and it was first uploaded earlier in 2005. Now the file name is called
That's still a really creepy image. Like, that's not as creepy as Jeff the Killer, but that's still pretty freaky. I mean, if I woke up and saw that motherfucker in the corner of the bedroom, I'd still shit my pants.
prettyface.jpg. The eyes are completely different and the mouth seems to be less edited. It doesn't have the smile smeared onto it. Now these Jeff images have been re-uploaded all over the Japanese internet, which makes it really difficult to find the true origins of the unedited picture because so many people have re-uploaded, reposted it, trying to get spooks and scares and all that.
Ever wondered what your home looks like from space? Enter your address and get a
Yeah,
360-degree
I
satellite
think
view
so
of your
too,
home
cutie pie.
right now. See your city.
Damn ads.
As with any
Yeah, I think, let's go back to it. I think that's a little bit creepier, yeah, in my opinion. I mean, the eyes are goofy. They look like those stick-on eyes, the googly eyes that you stick on little dolls, yeah. But it's still creepy. The mouth,
all
mouth is
over the
still pretty
Japanese
creepy.
internet, which makes it really difficult to find the true origins of the unedited picture because so many people have re-uploaded, reposted it, trying to get spooks and scares and all that. As with any mystery in life or on the internet, there are plenty of people making up shit just to convince people into thinking they found the real thing. And of course, during the investigation of Jeff the Killer, there are plenty of people tricking people into thinking they found the unedited image. So conveniently, the subreddit's document has a list.
That is so wild to me. Like, that's how big of a deal this creepypasta became. That people were even like making shit up to be a part of the history, to say, oh yeah, that's an image of me, or I made that original image. That's pretty wild to think about, that people were actually like, that's how intent people were on becoming a part of this history, right? Kind of cool though.
Of fake mock-ups that they found, and we're gonna go over these fake mock-ups to see how convincing they look. I wonder if you can tell this is unscripted. So this is actually one of the first mock-ups I've seen on the subreddit. Apparently someone on Discord admitted to basically making this. I feel like this picture right here, the toddler, is the most convincing one, although I will say the image is a little too high res. And here's another picture with an Asian lady on it. Hey, this is kind of like foreshadowing to what's next context in the video, so I'm not gonna say too much about this. Here's another Photoshop mock-up. First of all, this is kind of
Freaky.
like, this kind of just looks like another edit of Jeff the Killer, not really like an unedited version. Someone tried to use a face similar to Katie Robinson's and try to Photoshop it onto the pretty face image. Here's green-eyed Jeff. Looks like if he had one too many Fent hits. But there's a lot of people claiming that this is the unedited version of Jeff the Killer, quote-unquote. As some people pointed out, the image is a lot lower quality than the OG Jeff image. And, you know, it smears a bunch more stuff on it. It's just another edit. Looks like a goofy-ass dude. If I saw him in the closet, I'd probably laugh at his face. More AI schlop. Oh, and here's this infamous anime girl AI, where if you squint, it looks like the OG Jeff picture. Yeah, I guess apparently more AI schlop. A lot of AI stuff here. What the hell is this? We got like Jeff the Reddit mod. Hey, if you've been enjoying the video, make sure to subscribe.
Okay, that's pretty funny. This guy is pretty entertaining. I'm gonna give him a like. He deserves it. He made me laugh more than a few times. But yeah, Bundy, exactly. It's people wanting their 15 minutes of fame. It's just really unique or cool that this random ass story that sounds like it was written by a fucking toddler got so famous on the internet that people wanted to attach themselves to it. Super crazy. So yeah, that's definitely wild. Entertaining. But so anyways, yeah. Oh. Okay, yeah, here, let me keep playing the video. Go a little bit farther in, see if this guy ever ends up actually finding the real Jeff the Killer.
There are a couple of testimonials that I want to show y'all where it's users claiming that they've seen the original unedited image before Jeff became popular on the western side of the internet. Now, the first testimony I want to go over is from Miyama, or Mr. Mulholland, and they're actually one of the first members from these Japanese image boards to provide a testimony to the investigative team from the subreddit. Allegedly, the unedited photo of Jeff is a cropped image from a video showcasing a middle-aged woman with a very white face. Now, unfortunately, Mr. Mulholland believes that the original video doesn't exist on the internet anymore. However, they claim that the video was actually a snippet from a show called Honto ni Atta Nori no Video. The team has checked out this show, but unfortunately couldn't find any clips that had the original Jeff image. Now, another testimony I want to showcase is from Mighty Omnivore, an image board user who actually posted one of the earliest known reposts of a Jeff the Killer edit on a Western forum. According to the DM shown off in this document, they claim to have seen the unedited photo of Jeff and that the images were apparently from someone who were just taking selfies of themselves. It's possible that these images could have been from a video. However, since it was so long ago, like what, now 20 years ago, and Mighty Omnivore unfortunately doesn't have any images saved on their old hard drive. They did claim that Pretty Face may not have been the original file name for the early Jeff edit. So it's possible that the image could be floating around somewhere on the internet under a different name. Now, the last testimony I want to showcase is from a user named C-Man. They claim to have seen the original image back on 2chan, and he described the original image as a fat Asian girl with long black oily and shiny hair. The camera used was a terrible quality, and the background is a dirty room with clothes and a window covered by curtains. Although there was some new snippets of information revealed through these testimonies, unfortunately none of these users had any insane revelations or even had any copies of the unedited image. Soon, the investigators did catch on to a lead that I believe might actually be the one that will reveal the unedited image once and for all. Mariko was a net idol and was well known on
So this is the original Jeff the Killer, huh? What did you say her name was? Mariko, right here on the bottom. Okay.
Japanese image boards because of her InfoSeek page ran by her boyfriend Suza Kumaru. Now, this page was apparently a diet diary documenting Mariko's weight loss journey through a series of pictures. Unfortunately, because of how popular this diet diary became, this led to a whole bunch of harassment heading towards Mariko's way due to her size, mostly from users from 2chan and other forums that...
Wow, that's really fucked up. Gosh. What a bummer, man. Jeesh. Person's just trying to better themselves and people come in being an asshole. I mean, I guess that's the case for the internet being moderated, right? So there you go.
Suza Kumaru reposted the InfoSeek page on. Now, allegedly, Suza Kumaru made this diet diary without Mariko's consent and had been secretly taking pictures and videos of her to kind of like ridicule her and make fun of her. And it's also theorized that he could have been making revenue off of this InfoSeek page. So it's obvious that Mariko and Suza Kumaru do not have the most stable relationship, and it's possible that he was abusing Mariko for clicks and views and attention.
Gosh, what a dick.
Now, I'm sure y'all have made this connection already, but there is a huge number of similarities between Mariko and Jeff. They have the same hairline, same smile, same facial structure. Because of Mariko's notorious online reputation, it's possible someone made the pretty face image edit to make fun of her. So is it possible that Mariko was the original face for Jeffrey-kun? The investigative team theorized that the image used for Jeff could have been taken after May 2004 from a possibly unarchived video of Mariko. All the similarities between Jeff and Mariko, I believe that she might be the source of Jeff's face. However, it's very difficult to find the original image because of what happened to Mariko's diet diary. So around May 2004, there was an online movement to erase Mariko's presence on the internet, mostly because people realized how absolutely disgusting and awful it is to make a diet diary in secret just to ridicule your girlfriend, you know?
That's
apparently
pretty
some
messed
of
up,
the images
yeah.
and videos on this diet page were so disturbing that some people described it as a human rights violation that this page existed. So this led to a whole bunch of users reporting the page, telling people to, you know, not.
I wonder what was on the diet page. That's crazy. Almost makes me want to go find that diet page now. See what's going on. That's just crazy, though. Jeez, what a bummer. What an asshole boyfriend.
Go on the diet diary and just delete everything related to it. Unfortunately, most of the archived web pages available on the Wayback Machine were taken after this purge had happened. This is just a fucked up story of some poor woman being bullied and exploited online for the internet's entertainment. And unfortunately, this is a trend that still exists to this day, but that's a completely different rabbit hole. So I believe, and many people believe, that Mariko is the best lead in terms of finding Jeff's original unedited image. Because of the whole purge that happened, it did kind of hamper all the search efforts. It's very possible that the unedited picture of Jeff was a part of that purge, and now Jeff's unedited picture is probably lost media forever now.
Wow. Okay, well, I know we pretty much almost finished the entire video, but we're going to go ahead and pause it there. I got a little bit interested in it. I didn't know that's where it came from. That was a much sadder story than I expected. Holy shit. Like, that poor girl, man. What a fuckhead of a boyfriend. Gosh, what a dick. I gotta say, be careful who you date, people, because some people can just be fucking dickheads. Thankfully, my cutie pie would never share my diet diary, so I'm safe there. I got a good one. All right. So anyways, that's where Jeff the Killer comes from, all right? So that was one of the original creepypastas as well. We're going to jump into the next one, Slenderman, all right? So everybody knows Slenderman. If we go back to our timeline here. You better not have cutie pie. I don't know. My diet diary is pretty boring. I don't think there's anything too intense in there that you could share with anybody. So, yeah. Anyways, if we get back into Slenderman, whole web page for it too. Did you, hot stuff? That's okay. I think I'm okay with that. To be perfectly honest, I would be pretty proud if my diet diary got out there because I kicked a lot of ass at that. That's one thing that I do really well is dieting. So, but yeah, anyways. So, yeah, you can go ahead and make as many web pages for that as you want, cutie pie. Good luck starting your own creepypasta with that, though. That would be cool to start a creepypasta, though. That would be way badass. Anyways, yeah, so where were we at? Yeah, Slenderman. We wanted to look and see where Slenderman was at. Okay. Oh, that's it. We got our F1 happening up here. Slenderman. So, Slenderman first. Oh, here we go. Up here. So, June 10th, 2009. So, the earliest Slenderman pictures for a paranormal themed Photoshop contest in June. June 11th, updates more Slenderman pictures. So, the first Slenderman pictures come into play in 2009. Go back down here, 2014. What app user uploads Cold and Dark, a 25-part Slenderman fan fiction. So that's the first original Slenderman story. Okay, so we're going to jump back to this webpage and read about Slenderman. So, Slenderman is a long, lanky humanoid with tentacles coming out of his back. With no face and a black suit, it is said that he targets young children. Oh. Okay, here we go. Human noises. Okay, so where are we at? Targets young children. He was first created, or was believed to be first created, in 2009 in a Photoshop contest. A man going by the online name of Victor Surge had submitted 2 black and white photos with children playing joyously. However, behind them stood the creature of creepypasta legend that we all know today. So here's the original picture. Can we make it bigger? No, we absolutely can't. But you can see Slenderman here in the background. That creepy ass shadow right there. Yeah. The images went viral to the point where fan art and cosplay were abundant, which eventually led to the creation of multiple creepypastas from multiple creators. The success of Slenderman was purely accidental, and it didn't take too long for the increasingly popular character to leak into mainstream media in the form of video games, YouTube series, and even movies. So again, yeah, this was one of those stories that blew up so big that if you were the guy that created it, you would be kind of upset. You would be like, bro, somebody owes me some fucking money, right? So let's see, movies. Slenderman is a controversial topic, especially for younger children. We'll get to that here in a second. And it looks like they can. So let's see. Origins of the myth. What did I have here? Oh, yeah. This goes into the pictures, which let's hop over here. Here's a whole bunch of the original Slenderman photos, right? So there was the very first one right here that you guys saw here. Let me throw it back on the YouTube screen so you can check this out. Okay. So Slenderman right here in the background, right? We go up to this one. We see Slenderman here in the back again. Go over here. We got Slenderman way in the back right there. And let's see, where was it again? Right here again. In the back. Now we're getting into a whole bunch of... I don't know what's happening in here. Oh, we went away. Back here. Here we go. Right there in the back. So, as you can see, Slenderman, tons of different original. Oh, here we go. This is an old school one where they even have him way in the back right there. So, back here, Slenderman. So, it keeps going and going and going, right? Tons of crazy Slenderman pictures that were made by this guy. What was his name again? No, not Massive Times. It was Eric Knudsen was the guy who started this whole thing. He's the original that started all of these Slenderman pictures that inevitably became the Slenderman, well, at this point is now mythology, right? And so, yeah, this Slenderman, and at this point here, we'll even hop over here. As they said in that article, you had a whole bunch of Slenderman YouTubers come out, and I wanted to shout out these guys, Marble Hornets. I forget when Marble Hornets came out. Maybe they'll have it up here on this particular. Let's check this out, Marble Hornets. There's a chance that they might be. Here we go, right? Oh, no, a little bit up. Right here. Okay, so Joseph DeLage and Troy Wagner began the Marble Hornets project on YouTube. This is all the way back in 2009, right? So here you go, the original OG Marble Hornets. This is a video series. Got a whole bunch of videos. They just go and go and go of a couple of young kids who made this that were, I think, if I remember the story, they were, oh, what were they? They were film school students who were in film school, heard about the Slenderman series, and wanted to make a whole video series on Slenderman. And ended up making the Marble Hornet series that got really big on YouTube, about 700,000 subscribers now, and this was all the way back in 2009 when this originally came out, yeah. So these guys got really big for the time in YouTube. They created their own mythology to Slenderman, right? So, excuse me. They created their whole own mythology and backstory to Slenderman, which was pretty crazy. And it's a really enjoyable video series to get into if you like this kind of stuff, if you're a really big Slenderman fan. I myself am not a huge Slenderman fan. But if you are, you definitely need to check this out, yeah. Because this whole thing is pretty entertaining, pretty fun. These kids were just 18, 19-year-old kids fresh out of high school. And they made a really compelling series. It was really badass. So give it a look if you're interested in Slenderman, and if you like this kind of content, if you like the creepypasta orientated type stuff, this is a really fun one. These guys did a really good job for being such young kids, making their first ever series, I guess you could call it, movie. You know, I remember watching this back in 2010 or 11. And it was a fucking blast. It was really enjoyable to watch, and a lot of really cool lore that now you see in like the Slenderman video games and the Slenderman movie that were started by these two 19-year-old kids with their YouTube channel, which is really cool. Really interesting to see, right? But from all of this really cool stuff, all of these people making this interesting internet lore, unfortunately came this, a terrible accusation. All right, so check it out. Okay. On May 31st, 2014, two girls, Morgan Geyser and Anissa Wire, both 12 at the time, allegedly brought an 11-year-old classmate to the woods behind Geyser's home in Waukesha, Wisconsin. The two girls then allegedly stabbed their classmate 19 times in what investigators described as a sacrifice intended to please Slenderman, which they had discovered on a horror story website. One of the girls reportedly told a detective they were trying to become proxies for Slenderman. Yeah, you might not know what proxies are. That's a whole part of the Slenderman lore. When Slenderman takes people, he turns them into like ghosts that do his bidding. These kids saw this video and decided they wanted to stab their classmate to become proxies for Slenderman. Thankfully, the victim survived. The victim, who was left for dead, managed to crawl to a bike path where she was saved by a bicyclist. Of the 19 stab wounds, 2 hit major organs, while 1 wound missed a major artery by less than a millimeter. She spent 6 days in the hospital. On a massive manhunt, the alleged attackers were apprehended close to Interstate 94. An officer found a knife believed to have been used in the stabbing in one of the girls' bags. HBO's Beware of Slenderman. HBO started an entire documentary based on the case. The alleged attack was premeditated, according to Beware the Slenderman. That's the HBO documentary. The two girls planned the attacks for months. Geyser temporarily ruled incompetent in trial, so this is one of the young ladies that did the stabbing. On August 2004, Geyser was ruled incompetent to stand trial after being diagnosed with childhood onset schizophrenia. Then on December 14th, the pair were ruled competent to stand trial. The two suspects have pleaded not guilty by reason of mental disease or defect. Got a burp. Geyser's diagnosis reportedly stemmed from her belief that she has mind control powers. She also indicated that she speaks with fictional characters, including Voldemort from the Harry Potter series. After 2 years of legal battles, the Wisconsin Appeals Court ruled that Geyser and Wire would be tried as adults based in part on signs that the crime was premeditated. Prosecutors said Geyser and Wire apparently believed that if they sacrificed someone to the Slender Man, that the characters would spare the girls' families' lives and invite the pair to live in his Slender Man mansion. Here's some interrogation footage. Beware the Slender Man shows a portion of the interrogation. Girls could have faced up to 45 years in prison. On September 2014, a 17-year-old girl allegedly set her house on fire in what might have been a Slender Man-related incident. She told ABC News she had visited the website that contains a lot of the Slender Man information and stories. It would be safe to say there is a connection to that. And then an Ohio teen attacks their mom based off Slender Man. So these kids are just going batshit crazy, yeah. 2014, all in the same year, too. Mom was allegedly attacked in her kitchen by her 13-year-old daughter. The mom, who declined to identify herself, told Cincinnati News, "We found things that she had written and made reference to Slender Man." Marble Hornets, we already went over that, popular YouTube page. So there you have it, multiple instances. And I think this over here, they don't go into whether or not, I don't actually know what happened to these two young girls. I mean, the two young girls were sentenced to 20 and 40 years in a psychiatry ward. Oof. That's brutal. 40 years. I mean, not as brutal as getting stabbed 19 times, right? When you're only 12 years old. That's pretty horrifying. But that's pretty crazy, right? So, Slender Man, as you can see, had a pretty big, influence on a whole lot more just outside of media. If you thought it was crazy that Jeff the Killer had his girl fans, Slender Man has his own girl fans. They're a bunch of 12-year-olds that will stab the shit out of you, apparently. So, so yeah, that's no good. Anyways, yeah, so there's Slender Man for you. That way has a pretty crazy history. We're not going to dive too deep into this webpage right here because it's a pretty long one. The origins and history of Slender Man. I think Creepypasta kind of covered it pretty well. 2009, Marble Hornet start. And let's see, the original Slender Man pictures, I think that was 2009 too, wasn't it? Yeah, 2009, Eric Knudsen submits the earliest Slender Man pictures for a paranormal-themed Photoshop contest. So that's where Slender Man originally started, which is kind of intriguing because I heard, personally, what I had been told was that Slender Man actually started with what was a audio recording, right? Okay, so there was an old audio recording that I couldn't find anywhere on the internet for the stream, unfortunately, that was of a little girl calling the police because she had a slender, tall man in her window staring at her and her parents were gone. They're not home. And she was home alone, and there was a tall, slender man with no face staring at her through the window. And then in the recording is so fucking scary, man. I mean, if you listen to it, it puts your hairs on end, totally freaks you out, creeps you out. And more burps, holy shit. So yeah, really freaky recording. And in it, then when you hear the window break, you hear like a demon voice screaming like rah, 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 rah. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but it was something like that. And then the girl screams, and then the police call ends. So it was a recording from like the dispatcher, right? A 9/11 dispatch recording. And that was, I always thought, was the origins of Slender Man. Then somebody came around, took that tall man with no face, turned it into a character for their photos, and then Marble Hornets turned it into a YouTube project, and then from there, it unraveled. But nowadays, I actually can't find the original audio recording, that original 9/11 recording from the Slender Man. I can't find it anywhere. So I guess, it's lost to time. One of those things where you had to have been there. The audio recording was honestly the creepiest part of the whole fucking thing, right? The whole thing was creepy, but the audio recording was the spookiest part of it. The Marble Hornets was really entertaining part of the video. So if you really enjoy video stuff, check out the Marble Hornets YouTube channel. That's a lot of fun. It's a lot like Backrooms. If anybody's seen the Backrooms, Marble Hornets, their whole thing was exactly like very similar to the Backrooms, right? So, but that's where Slenderman started. Let's see, we can probably, no, we can't get out of that. This goes on to subgenres. And then let's see, we're going a little long on the stream, but that's okay. No big deal. We'll go a tad bit longer. So we can cover, at least cover the Decline. And then I can show you some of the other, and I'll make sure, by the way, I link this article in the YouTube description for the YouTube video, because it is a really good read. It's just a really long read, so I didn't really want to cover it. I spent way too much time talking about the history of creepypastas and all of that, spent a little too much time on that. So anyways, other interesting creepypastas that helped start the genre, we have the Russian sleep experiment. Cutie Pie, if you're still there and watching, what was that thing that I pressed? Something F1? Control F1? Is that what I pressed? Control F? Control F. Yeah, there it is. Okay. Ooh, look at me. I got this. Let's see. Russian sleep experiment. That's not how you spell that. Nothing in there. What about Russian? There we go. Okay. So let's come up here. That's August 8th of 2009. Again, 2009 was a big year for creepypastas, man. The Russian sleep experiment is posted by RIP747 on their WordPress website. Okay, so that's 2009 that the Russian sleep experiment came out. And we don't have time to read through it. This one is definitely one of my faves, right? This one is a really fun creepypasta. If you haven't read it, I definitely suggest you read it. There's been numerous rumors of Russian sleep experiment movies coming out, and I haven't actually seen anything confirmed. I know that they did make a couple shorts on YouTube for the Russian sleep experiment, like short movies, right? Like kind of like the Marble Hornets did with Slenderman. But it is pretty it would be really cool. It would definitely be a badass movie to watch for sure. But unfortunately, they haven't made it yet. I don't know if that's actually ever going to come out. That's just a rumor that I've heard. But in any case, yeah, Russian sleep experiment is definitely one of the most entertaining creepypastas that you can dive into. It's about obviously a research experiment in Russia, obviously, hence the name Russian experiment. The Russian sleep experiment took 5 guys, deprived them of sleep, threw them in a tank, and then kind of watched what happened. Well, you'll get the gist of it. We got a short video to watch here. I forget what this is. What was this? Why did I have this on here? Hold on.
The Russian sleep experiment is the terrifying tale in which 5 people are kept awake for 15 days and the horrifying...
I got 2 different videos here. I'm not sure why.
His human test subjects alive and well. Instead, he witnesses absolute pandemonium. He hears screams of the damned, and in front of him is a body that's...
So I think these were both actually the same thing. They were both 2 different documentaries on the Russian sleep experiment. That one's 6 minutes, 12 minutes. Okay. Let's jump into this one because this one's a little shorter. So this is a whole video about the Russian sleep experiments. To kind of give you a general gist of what it is. It's not the story itself, so it's not going to run through the whole thing. I'll link the entire original story, again, at creepypastafandom.com. I'll link that to the description in the YouTube video. So I definitely recommend checking it out because it is a really fun read. And it's a little too long to go over on chat, on a stream. But if you read it on your own time, it's only like a 15-minute read. It's really not that long. So I definitely recommend checking it out, all right? So we're going to get out of that. And yeah, let's check this out. I will link this video in the description too, because the infograph show is hilarious and their animation is really, really good. They do a really good job with the animation on this show. So I highly recommend checking it out just because it's entertaining. I also wanted to bring up the Russian sleep experiment always has this image related to it. Yeah. So here's the Wikipedia page for it. This image is always linked with the Russian sleep experiment. It's supposedly one of the people in the test. This was a picture of them after the experiment. And this picture always freaks people out. Again, this is one of those, what we were talking about earlier. Some of the creepypastas attach themselves to freaky pictures on the internet. This is a classic example of that, just like the Jeff the Killer and Smile Dog, which we might not have time to get into Smile Dog, but like Jeff the Killer, right? So this guy is a creepy picture that was associated with the Russian sleep experiment, and it always freaked me out, at least when I saw it, right? When I first saw this picture, I was always like, oh, holy shit, man. Like, that's creepy. Like, guy looks like he has his eyes ripped out. Again, it kind of has a similar thing to Jeff the Killer, right? Big smile on his face. Looks like his cheeks have been ripped out, eyes ripped out. Pretty creepy. Well, it turns out this is actually this. It's just it's a styrofoam Halloween prop is what it is. And it's a teeny tiny guy. It's only like this big. What it is, if you look at the picture closely, it's that prop, that exact one right there, put outside on a metal bench with snow on it, is all that it is. So this is just a bench. You can see the rest right there, the back. I always thought this was like a bed frame is what he was sitting on. And this is actually just snow all around him. So somebody just took a black and white picture of that, and it was so creepy. They posted it on the internet, and the internet ran with it. And the people who made the Russian sleep experiment attached their story to this random photo, which was just a photo of this like $20 morbid imagery spirit Halloween prop. And that's how they got the picture, right? So we don't need to spend nearly as much time figuring out how they got this picture, like Jeff the Killer. They just took a Halloween prop and took a picture of it, which is kind of entertaining. But in any case, yeah, had to throw that out there because I thought that was funny. I'll throw back on my YouTube screen. We're going to watch top fives, the Russian sleep experiment, most terrifying human experiment ever performed. All right. So this is a good channel. Definitely check out the top fives if you've never seen it. They do a lot of different stuff, though. It's not just creepypasta stuff. But yeah, go ahead and take a listen, see what they have to say about the origins or about this creepypasta.
The Russian sleep experiment is the terrifying tale in which 5 people are kept awake for 15 days and the horrifying effect it had on their minds and bodies. Now, this is just a story and there is no evidence to prove this actually happened, but with that in mind, people say with the things that were going on in this time period, there is a possibility something like this could have been conducted. Because we cannot forget that in the same era as this story is based, Russian scientists released a video of severed dog heads that were kept alive for several hours using an artificial blood circulation system. So, although this is fictional, there is a possibility it's based on historical experiments. So let's get into the story.
That's uber fucked up, by the way. Leave it up to the USSR to do something that fucked up. Poor doggies, man. And I like dogs, man. You know, experiment on people, yeah, it's a big bummer. But experiment on dogs, bro? What the fuck's wrong with you, dude? On dogs? Man.
In the 1940s, scientists in Russia decided to conduct experiments to test the effects of extreme sleep deprivation. They selected 5 World War II political prisoners deemed as enemies of the state and promised them freedom if they could stay awake for 30 days. They were then sealed into a small chamber and exposed to an experimental gas stimulant to keep them awake. The prisoners were monitored through portholes and microphones, and they were provided with enough food to last for a month, along with some books, running water, a toilet, and beds. For the first 5 days, very little happened, apart from the discussions between the prisoners were getting more emotional, and they started to reveal their inner thoughts to each other. On day 6, their behavior took a turn for the worst. They were getting paranoid, stopped communicating, and started blaming each other for being trapped in the room. They started sitting with their backs to each other, and strange, inaudible whispers could be heard through the microphones. After 9 days, one of the men started screaming. He ran up and down the small chamber in crazed terror, screaming and crying so much that he lost his voice and reduced it to a whimpering croak. It was later discovered that he had completely torn his vocal cords. The 4 other captives seemed oblivious to the screaming man, but 2 of them were observed quietly tearing pages from books, defecating on them and sticking them to the glass portholes in the chamber. By day 14, the scientists could no longer look in and observe the subjects. On day 15, the screaming had stopped and the room was silent. It was only the oxygen monitors that indicated any sign of life, and no longer able to see in the chamber, the scientists were concerned the men had fallen unconscious. At midnight on the 15th day, they decided to open the chamber to check, but before opening it, they sent this message to the men. "We are opening the chamber to test the microphones. Step away from the door and lie flat on the floor or you will be shot. Compliance will earn one of you freedom." The cell remained silent until one quivering voice said, "We no longer want to be free." The scientists entered the cell and were greeted by a vision of unimaginable horror. The food provided was not eaten, but the men had blood dripping from their mouths. Each of them had chunks of flesh and sinew ripped from their bodies, and there were indications from the destruction of flesh and exposed bones on their fingertips that these horrific wounds had been self-inflicted, not by teeth but by the subjects' bare hands. They had been eating themselves. Some of them had so much flesh stripped from their bodies that their rib cage could clearly be seen, and their internal organs that were still attached and working had been removed from the body cavity. The subjects were still unsilent, but when the scientists turned off the gas, it sent them into a frenzy. They attacked the scientists and guards with such strength that one of the security guards who tried to stop the attacks died after having his testicles ripped out with the bare hands of one of the subjects.
Ooh, gosh. You know, out of all the fucked up shit in this story, that's by far the worst.
Along with this, 5 guards were also killed. All efforts to sedate the 5 men were resisted. It was as if their bodies were rejecting any drugs that tried to pacify them. Even after receiving a dose that would normally have put down 3 men, it failed to calm the subjects. In the frenzied violence that followed, 2 of the subjects succumbed to their horrific self-inflicted wounds. Finally, the 3 remaining men were restrained and tied up. All 3 of them were begging to be kept awake, refusing anesthetic, and choosing to have their surgical procedures to have their removed organs placed back in their bodies whilst wide awake and without painkillers. The first subject to be operated on died due to blood loss, and it was discovered that 9 bones in his body had been broken. The second man, who had started screaming on day 6, of course unable to speak, communicated by smiling as surgery was performed in a seemingly sick, satisfying way. When the surgery ended, he became angry and demanded by writing on paper that the surgeon should keep cutting. The third subject simply muttered over and over, "I must remain awake." Although distressed at the monsters they had created, the scientists were still intrigued by their subjects' behavior and decided to return the 2 surviving men to the chamber, exposing them once again to the gas. Only one made it back to the chamber though, the other fell asleep and passed away. The final surviving subject grew impatient, demanding he be returned to the chamber immediately. He broke free from his restraints and grabbed one of the guarding soldiers' guns, shooting 2 of the scientists in the head. He was overpowered, and before more damage could be done, one of the scientists grabbed the gun and pointed it at the subject. He shouted at him,
There's our famous picture right there. Here's a nice big version of it too, so you can see. Now you can see the snow on the bench surrounding this guy, right? So, or on the metal, whatever the bench it is. But yeah, there's your famous Russian sleep experiment picture. Now you know the story to it.
"What are you? I must know." The subject replied, "Have you forgotten so easily? We are you. We are the madness that lurks within you all, begging to be free at every moment in your deepest animal mind. We are what you hide from in your beds every night. We are what you sedate into silence and paralysis when you go to the nocturnal haven we cannot tread." The scientist staggered backwards before shooting the subject. As he lay dying on the floor, he spluttered his last words, "So nearly free." So, that is the Russian sleep experiment. Like I said, this is just a fictional story, but it's possible.
Okay, so that is the story right there. So there you have it. Spoiler alerts, a little too late in the stream, but it is what it is. Yeah, it is a fictional story, but there's so many people who still think that this is a real story. That's pretty crazy. I remember back in the day, maybe almost 10 years ago now, 25, 26 years old, I had a girlfriend at the time who swore this shit was real. And I remember telling her, like, no, like, I remember when it came out and it's just a fictional story that somebody made. And she was like, no, it's fucking real, dude. Like, these are actual papers from the experiment, bro. And I was like, oh, geez, okay, like, chill. But people swore this was real. Good movie, too, or good little YouTube video. Give them a like. They're a pretty big channel, but still, give them support because that was a well-made video. All the images kind of add to the story, right? So, anyways, moving along, we got Smile Dog. Smile Dog is the next big one. April 10th, 2010 is what creepypasta.com says. Creepypasta.com, not to be confused with creepypasta.fandom.com, two different websites. Creepypasta.com is a great one to go to for original creepypastas. So definitely check out that webpage if you're into creepypasta stuff, right? In the meantime, we're going to put Smile in over here. There we go. And this was 2009 too. Smile Dog makes its debut in a post on 4chan. So out of all the original creepypastas, Smile Dog is my favorite, right? This one was a blast for me. And this is the original Smile Dog right here that I'll link in the description as well. I think I might save reading it for the actual stream where I go over my favorite creepypastas, right? Because that's kind of the whole point of that stream. And this definitely goes on my list of favorite creepypastas, not just because that photo is so fucking creepy, but because the story itself is like, oof, really gets you. And the writing is a tad bit better than Jeff the Killer, right? So we're not going over that super cringe lord 5-year-old type stuff, but it's still a pretty good. It is a really good story, right? Much better written than a lot of the original creepypastas. So I'll link that in the description for you. But we want to find out where the Smile Dog came from, right? So we're gonna check that out. We got a short video here by STYT, a little bit of a decent sized channel, 226,000 subscribers. That's pretty awesome. Good for this guy. We're going to watch it, and if he's got a good video, like and subscribe to his stuff too. But hopefully he gives us some info on where the original Smile Dog came from. So let's check it out.
Smile Dog is known as one of the most cursed images on the internet. Today,
look at that. Out of all of the images you've seen today, that one's got to be the creepiest. To me, that's even creepier than Jeff the Killer. I'm pretty sure this is a mixture of Jeff the Killer and Smile Dog. Notice like the long black hair, the eyes, the smile, all looks just like Jeff the Killer, right? So I think this was a mixture of Jeff the Killer mixed with Smile Dog.
we're going to be doing a little bit of a deep dive into the origin stories of Smile Dog, finding out where it actually came from.
This is the original Smile Dog picture right here, which is creepy enough. It's a, what is that? A husky. You see a husky smiling into the camera with what looks like human teeth, right? And then this hand kind of reaching out towards him for help. This supposedly is a cursed image. And when you see it, Smile Dog appears in your dreams, according to the lore. So you're very welcome for that.
Who created it? And of course, if this image is actually cursed. Smile Dog was first posted to the X4chan board in early 2010. The story behind Smile Dog goes like this. Once the image has been sent to you and you open it, you automatically get a certain urge that you need to send it to more people. According to people who have actually been cursed by this image, you have around 24 hours to send the image or the dog will show up in your dreams, more or less acting like a sleep paralysis demon. And as you're there laying paralyzed, it'll walk up to you, whispering and saying, "Spread the image, spread the image." This will unfortunately continue happening to you every night until you of course spread the image. At least that's what people are saying. Now me, man, listen, if something said, hey, you gotta send it to everybody I know, is sorry, get away from me. I'm not trying to get no sleep paralysis. I'm not trying to have none of that happen to me. People who have also seen this original image say that they've experienced a ton of anxiety, an extreme amount.
This guy's got a lot of action going on with his eyebrows. Those eyebrows move like freely on their own. It's kind of wild. He also has a real fluffy head of hair too. Just thought I'd point that out.
Of dread when first seeing this image. And as I said before, of course, if they're not sending the image, chronic nightmares every single night. Smile Dog's goal is to more or less be spread to as many people as possible. There are 3 possible original images of Smile Dog, but these 2 I can't seem to find any backstory or any information on them. But this original image, I do. A Reddit user posted this to the r/creepypasta Reddit, saying they think they found the original image of Smile Dog, more or less the image based on Smile Dog, before a ton of effects were added to it in Photoshop. Now in this case, the only things that do look extremely similar is the facial structure and of course the eyes, but it is still slightly off. As I said before, people were able to use Photoshop back in the day, and they were able to morph this dog into looking like pretty much whatever they wanted. The only other discrepancies are the fact that this dog isn't in front of a window, while this Smile Dog image is of course in front of a window, but the faces are eerily similar. So there is another story behind Smile Dog. We're not going to dive too deep into it because of course it's a story, but it starts out with a software engineer in 1992. Her name was Mary, and her and 399 other lucky people got this image emailed to them. The image of course being Smile Dog. As soon as she did open this image, as I stated before, she felt immense dread and chronic anxiety, to the point of where she couldn't show up to her job anymore, therefore losing it. But of course, as I said before, that's just a story that was made up to go around this creepypasta. Now in my opinion, obviously I do not think this image is cursed. I don't think there's anything wrong with this image. I think it was just a really cool creepypasta from back in the day, you know, around 2010, 2011. When you're a little bit of a younger kid, you see this image, you're like, oh my god, that's so scary. You know, I gotta send it to as many people as possible. You know, when you get those really, really long texts, those, you need to send this to 15 people or X, Y, and Z will die. You remember those text messages? Those were like, I don't know, 2012, 2013. I was...
They kind of mentioned those at the beginning of the video, right, in that very initial article that we read. So this is definitely where Smile Dog emerged from. It was one of those emails that you got.
Young, so I don't quite remember, but I remember getting those. So that's pretty much the more or less the same thing having to do with Smile Dog, except at an earlier date, you know, back in 2010. But that is more or less the origin story behind Smile Dog. As I said, there is a little bit of a longer story having to do with Mary and all of these other people, but it's just kind of, it's lore. It's not like an actual backstory. Unfortunately, there isn't an original creator of the Smile Dog image. A few people have came out saying that they made this image, but they have really little to no proof. So the person who originally created this image still has yet to come forward after so many years of it being pretty much just internet history. But that is more or less the deep dive into Smile Dog and the backstory explained. As I said before, I didn't tell the whole Mary story because it's extremely long and kind of drawn out, and I gave you pretty much all the pieces that you needed to know about Smile Dog when it comes to that little bit of a lore story. But if you enjoyed the video at any capacity, slap a like on it and comment down below what creepypasta you want me to explain next. With all of that being...
All right, well, you know, that's enough for me to give him a like. Didn't explain too much. I was kind of hoping he'd get into the history of the photo, because that photo is so fucking creepy, man. Such a spooky photo. But he didn't get into it. It sounds like nobody can actually get into it, because that's a here, hold on a second. That was I guess at the early days of the internet is what it was. Early days of the internet, and now it's dead and gone. The origins can't source it like they did with the Russian sleep experiment photo or the Jeff the Killer photo, right? Hopefully it doesn't have as fucked up of an origin as the Jeff the Killer photo, because that was pretty sad. A poor girl having her diary exposed. That's pretty unfortunate. So anyways, the Decline. So we're going to hop back here. I did have another one that I wanted to pop up, Candle Cove, but I think I'm going to go ahead and save that one for a different date, and we're probably just going to read the Decline of Creepypastas, and I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. The origins of creepypastas, I don't think we need to go through that video. That was kind of like an extra if I had extra time on the stream, and it turns out this stream ended up being much longer. So okay, the Decline of Creepypastas. The early 2010s were prime time for creepypastas, but the popularity didn't last long. Google Threads shows us that the term creepypasta hit its peak in terms of searches in June of 2014, and ever since then has hit a steep decline. It does appear that in July of 2020 it hit another peak in terms of YouTube searches. So what happened? Well, there is no concrete answer. I have a few theories. Oh, something went down the wrong tube. I don't think that it's a coincidence that the same year that the Slenderman stabbing occurred, the search term hit its peak. However, I believe that many have implemented a negative idea of the community in people's minds, which may have caused the growth of the community to stagnate. Not only that, but while originally intended for a mature audience, I believe that a good portion of the creepypasta community's fan base was children, and it could be that after the incident, parents began to pay more attention to what their children were doing online. However, the exact opposite may be true. Over the past decade, children have become increasingly prominent on the internet, and thusly upon seeing creepypastas decided to try and make their own. This resulted in a plethora of ill-written stories, with little to no literary understanding. The older members of the community noticed this, and content creators began to make videos highlighting the best of the worst creepypastas for laughs. It was because of this lack of quality control that caused the general perception of creepypastas to be seen as generally childish and silly. Sacrilegious. And of course, my final theory being that just like many things, creepypastas were merely a fad. While there are still many enthusiasts out there, it's widely agreed upon that creepypastas are no longer what they once were in terms of popularity. With a history of tragedy that preceded the growth of a child audience, I think that the history of creepypasta is much like the internet's. The internet used to be for a predominantly mature audience, but due to parents' neglect of their children, many problems have occurred. Ones that the parents blame on the internet. This is also similar to parents' relationship with video games. With all these connections in mind, it's no wonder the three are so tightly knit. And so there is a legacy of creepypastas. It talks a little bit about the SCP Foundation. We will get into that on a different video. I already have that video made up. To end the stream on my thoughts, I think that that person is in general wrong about where creepypastas ended. I think, you know, the significance of the Slenderman stabbings happening in 2014 and then the peak coming around then and then it suddenly declining might have had something to do with it maybe, but those stabbings all were just concerned with Slenderman. And it was only one really big stabbing and then a small plethora of other crimes committed by small children. It was definitely a good reason for parents to keep their children the fuck off the internet, which they should have been doing in the first place. But I think that the actual decline of creepypastas themselves actually came about when people started taking authorship and ownership of the properties. I think it's just a coincidence that the creepypastas declined around 2015 and 16. Again, that was around the time that people started attaching their names to the creepypastas that they were writing in hopes that they would make a big payday. And then it was around 2017, like 16, 17, and 18, that they started putting serious streaming services like Netflix started putting more money into buying up creepypastas. I think for me, that is what ultimately ended up ending the creepypastas as they were, because the aspect of creepypastas that was so creepy and cool was the community aspect. It was the fact that you could make this story, then other people could take your story or your photo and create a whole history behind it. And then we as a community, people from all over the world, were making this story together. And the other important aspect of creepypastas was that it was believable. Because nobody knew where they were coming from. So many people were talking about it and adding new information to it. It was an evolving story. You didn't know what was real or not. And it really hit millennials, especially because 2009 is the big year for it. We're all getting out of high school then. It was definitely a millennial-based phenomenon. And millennials got older. They got older, they realized a lot of their favorite creepypastas were bullshit. Like I said, in 2015 and 16, my girlfriend at the time seriously believed that the Russian sleep experiment was a real story. And that made her love it. To the point that when I tried to tell her that it wasn't real, she got pissed off. Because she liked the idea of this being an actual thing that happened because it made it scarier for her. It made it more entertaining, right? So now you have people coming out and claiming authorship over these stories. So we know that they're not real. The community aspect is completely gone because now people can't take the story and turn it into something else. You don't have other people helping you make this story. The internet got much, much more. I mean, before 2015 and 16, but around 2012 to 13 is when the internet started getting much more moderated. And now it's much more difficult for people to share these stories on the internet without other people noticing, oh, hey, you took the story from this person, this, that, and the other thing. So you have a combination of the community aspect goes away. the moderation comes in really heavy and stops a lot of this stuff from happening. I mean, think if moderation was around in the early 2000s, we probably wouldn't have gotten the Jeff the Killer photo. We wouldn't have gotten it because this douchebag boyfriend wouldn't have been able to share his girlfriend's diet diary, which probably would have been a good thing for her. I feel very sorry for that girl. But the reality is, him doing that like an asshole, one, was where we got the photo, but two, wouldn't be happening nowadays. He would be getting reported for harassment online, and in some countries like England, he would be going to prison for what he did, for certain. Now, they have serious laws now in a lot of countries about doing that kind of shit to people, which is a good thing. That is definitely something that needed moderation. It's a good thing. You can't revenge porn your fucking boyfriend or girlfriend or some shit, right? But in any case, moderation came in, which put a huge damper on the creative aspects of this particular phenomenon. The community aspect went away. And three, people started taking ownership of the stories, which combines with number four, a lot of the mystery was gone. You know, back in 2009, not a lot of people knew how to use the internet to search for where these photos came from, where these stories came from. Nowadays, you have all kinds of hackers and kids, you know, whole communities of people who are dedicated just to finding where this stuff come from. And, you know, there was also a huge change in culture, the way that American culture thinks of conspiracy theories. I bitch about this on every conspiracy theory episode I do. Nobody has fun with the conspiracy theories anymore. Everybody's like super uptight about it and super upset about it, and even takes conspiracy theories and tries to link them. My mustache is going all crazy. Tries to link them to unsavory groups of people like QAnon or this, that, or the other thing. Get linked with almost every conspiracy theory that exists nowadays, right? So the enjoyment aspect of conspiracy theories went away. And now when I get online to look up conspiracy theories, articles on them, every journalist is just writing an article on this conspiracy theory debunked. And they don't just debunk it, they tell you what an asshole you are for believing in it too, you see. So that cultural aspect of letting the mystery be there and just playing along with the mystery, little burp, that was a huge aspect of what made creepypastas fun. And that all went away in 2015 and 16 when Donald Trump kind of jumped on the scene. That's when, for some reason, that's when things got dialed up to 11 in America, and cultural attitudes about conspiracy theory shifted, about having misinformation on the internet. Nowadays, if somebody posted a Smile Dog story on the internet, you would have a whole bunch of internet sleuths who would be running to find out where the photo came from, and they would find it and they would debunk it as quickly as possible. And you would get a lot of people who would be upset about the misinformation aspect of it. They'd be pissed off that you started a fake story on the internet and tried to lie about it, you know, whereas back in the day, people were more inclined to just enjoy the story instead of trying to look for the debunking angle to try to prove you wrong, or go out and try to be the person that found the original photo, like, ha, proved you wrong, dickhead, and try to get internet famous off of that. So all those five things to me are what really killed creepypastas altogether. It was authors taking authorship, which immediately made it so we know this didn't happen, right? There's no mystique to it anymore. We know you're just writing a story to scare us versus this being internet lore. The community aspect completely went away, which I think happened with moderation coming in heavily. The internet sleuthing dialed up to 11, you know, and now everybody's an internet sleuth who can figure out where this shit comes from, and it doesn't take them any time, and they enjoy doing it. And five, cultural attitudes about just letting things being mysteries and enjoying the mystery of it went away in this country too. And I think those five things all happened at the same time in around 2015 and 16, which is where creepypastas start declining very heavily. They go back up, notice he said, in 2020, which is really funny because what was going on in 2020? The pandemic. And what was happening during the pandemic? Everybody was caught lying. It doesn't matter who, we talked about this in the Mark Manson video yesterday. There was nobody who was right during COVID. Okay. Republicans were wrong. Liberals were wrong. Experts were wrong. Conspiracy theorists were wrong. The media was wrong. Doctors were wrong. Everybody was wrong. The government was wrong. State governments were wrong. Even the people who were right about a certain thing, right, Okay. Somebody who might have been right about one fact of COVID was completely wrong about some other aspect of COVID, right? Even if you, like, nowadays, most people tend to seem to agree. Even the Atlantic just recently, I think, did a whole article on how the it was a conspiracy. The lab leak theory is true and is basically what happened. It was a lab leak, and that's what the Atlantic is now saying that. Well, even if for the record, in 2020, the Atlantic was coming out and calling you a douchebag conspiracy theorist if you believed in that. They were calling you a QAnon MAGA asshole if you believed in that, right? But even if you were the kind of person who believed in that and you were found to be proven correct on that, there's 5 other things that people were arguing about during COVID that you were probably wrong on. You're on the wrong side of it, right? So nobody ended up being correct during COVID, which meant people were that conspiracy theory, the acceptance of conspiracy theories became prominent again in 2020, which also conveniently is when creepypastas went back up in popularity. That, and of course, everybody was stuck in their fucking houses during COVID. So people had a lot more time to look at creepypastas. They didn't have time to go out and hang out with their friends and go shopping and do all that other shit because everybody was stuck in their homes. So people just stayed in their houses, got on the internet, free entertainment, and found creepypastas. And that was a lot of enjoyable free entertainment, was to just sit online and read scary stories instead of going to the movie theater or whatever, So that's my take on how creepypastas went away. Cultural attitudes changed. Communities on the internet changed. Authorship became a big part because people wanted to make money off their stories, which I understand as a writer, but that also kills the mystique of it. And all of that together is what, in my opinion, killed creepypastas. But in any case, creepypastas aren't entirely dead. They're still there. People still do write them. And the originals will always be there. And to those of us who were alive when they came about and we were there for that creation and we remember it, they'll always hold a special place in our hearts, right? Like EDM music, those old school warehouse raves back in 2008 will always hold a special place in my heart, right, Cutie Pie? You were there in Hawaii when those raves were happening. That was a beautiful time to be alive that will never, ever be replicated ever again. It was one moment in history that was amazing, and it'll always be fondly remembered. And those creepypastas will always be out there on the internet for you to read. I'll link every single one of them in the description of the video. So definitely go check them out if you're interested in reading any of the OG conspiracy theory videos, conspiracy theories, any of the OG creepypastas. Make sure you check out the YouTube video, check out the description, check out the links, and enjoy yourself and have some fun. So anyway, that does it for me. That is the end of today's Terrifying Tuesday. To all those that jumped in on the live stream, I appreciate your support and I appreciate you doing so. Thanks for the conversation. Thank you, Cutie Pie and Bundy, for being here to check it out too. If you guys are still there, I always appreciate you guys coming in and chatting me up. If you check this video out on YouTube, thanks for staying through the whole thing. I know it was a pretty long video today, but if you stuck through the entire thing, I appreciate it. Thank you for your support. If you enjoy these types of terrifying stuff, check out some of the other videos on my YouTube. All of my Terrifying Tuesdays are in their own playlist titled Terrifying Tuesdays. So make sure you check those out if you enjoy terrifying stuff. I won't be streaming next Tuesday. Next week is my off week from streaming. So it'll be the week after that I come in for another Terrifying Tuesday. And I think that will be the FBI's most wanted list is what I'm going over then. All right. So check that out. We'll be getting back to the creepypasta stuff a little later next month. Tomorrow, I will be streaming my Wildlife Wednesdays, and I'm starting on a new series I'm doing for Wildlife Wednesdays, Apex Predators series. So I'm going to go over all of the Apex Predators from a particular era. In this case, it is the Paleozoic era. So hint, hint, we're going to be talking about dinosaurs, motherfuckers. So always love me some dinosaurs. This will be the first episode of that Apex Predator series. So we'll see how it goes. It's going to be a new thing. We'll give it a test run, see if it's enjoyable, see if people respond to it. And if they do, then I will continue that series. So if you enjoy dinosaurs, either tune in for that stream tomorrow at 7 p.m. or check out the resulting YouTube video that'll probably be on my channel when this video hits. So if you saw this video on my channel and you want to look at some dope-ass dinosaurs, then check out the Apex Predator video as well. But that'll do it for me. Thank you, everybody, for your support out there. I really appreciate it. You guys have a wonderful rest of your night, and I will see you tomorrow. Peace.